The Fourth World War Shinobi. These unfortunate 4 words easily come off the lips, but the consequence that it carries is quite difficult to explain in words. It is difficult to survive the pain of loss. The war brings so much suffering. One extra move and you're dead. Close people who supported you, helped and cared for you, now lie like a soulless burden, adding to the number of deaths. The sick sobs and screams of helpless people begging Madara for mercy turned into terrible death cries, turning into deathly silence. The dead left the cruel world of Shinobi, heading to our ancient ancestors, silently watching us from heaven. Among so many brutally murdered Shinobi, the united army of all villages, lay a blonde, bleeding a puddle of her own blood. No, it can't be. The girl couldn't believe it. All her friends and relatives, for her, people, are now dying in an unspoken chain, saving her miserable life. Her team, Sakura and Sasuke, are now lying in front of her. The dead body is the only thing left. They can't. Fool, releasing his ears and exhaling, the gloomy fox interrupted her. He, like no one else, understood that his Jinchuriki would not survive, because the wounds she received during the battle with Obito, and after, with Kaguya, were fatal for her short life. Even monstrous regeneration does not help much. And if they had won this war, then morally the girl would not have been saved. She lost everyone, at the cost of victory. Don't even try. We won this fierce battle. However, the losses are too big. I know, the blonde barely whispered in her subconscious, staring gloomily at the floor with a yellowish chakra, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. But at least to try, to grasp all the available chances, even the slightest, can help to hold out even longer and maybe even survive. You think too optimistically. The fox growled furiously, and after a minute of silence added. They're all dead. You can't get anything back. Accept it, Naruko Uzumaki. The girl just kept silent, could not help but say a word. Hysteria will soon overtake her. She was teleported back to the battlefield. She tried to get up, leaning on her skinned elbows. A terrifying picture appeared before her eyes. Thousands of corpses, turning into a bloody mess. Jinchuriki saw the death of people unfamiliar to her, and even her remaining friends. Unable to withstand such a heat of emotion, she began to cry. She is weak, helpless, and mortally wounded. All she can do now is just watch. A terrifying, disgusting picture popped up in my head. He sees how a 10-tailed one with only the sweep of its mighty tail, takes thousands, or even millions of innocent victims' lives. Not knowing how much time she spent in a state of shock, the girl sharply felt pain in the heart area, and she, having let out the last tear, fell to her death. The last thing she wanted while her eyelids were glued together forever was this. If only there was a second chance, a chance to live a happy life. Silence and peace, no noise, no smell of corpses. Is this really heaven? Naruko naively thought to herself until she heard someone's hoarse voice. Child, you have suffered enough in this world, it's time for you to go to another one. Your wish will be fulfilled, said a hoarse and squeaky voice. Who are you? Kunoichi asked warily. Who am I, what am I? It doesn't matter, child. What will be in return? Uzumaki squinted suspiciously. In return, you will correct all my sins. You will make the third Shinobi War the last. An unknown being voiced part of the deal, provided that Kurama stays with me. Not wanting to lose her tailed friend, Uzumaki hastened to add her word. He's not going anywhere. The creature sneered maliciously, and then continued seriously. You will send a shinobi to the time of the Third War. Your memory will be lost, but with every acquaintance or event, they will come back. I hope you can make a difference, child. I, Uzumaki Naruko, promise to keep my word. I will do my best to save all my friends and family. Kunoichi promised enthusiastically, offering her hand for a shake. It's a deal. Naruko abruptly opened her sky-blue eyes. She was lying in a clearing not far from Konoha, that dream again. The blonde whispered wearily but quickly pulling herself together and not hesitating, she, resting on her elbows, quickly got up. Her age is about 6 to 7 years. She had golden blonde hair, on the tips of which there was also a blood-red color that came from the Uzumaki clan. Tanned fair skin and sapphire eyes. In order to have some fun, the young Jinchuriki decided to visit her first and only friend. The person did not hesitate. She sat down in the lotus position, starting to meditate, trying to get into the subconscious. Haiku. The girl greeted cheerfully, passing through the wide bars of the cage, coming closer and hugging Kurama tightly, pressing her whole body into the warm and dense fur of a friend. After all, she valued friendship very much. Did you miss me? That's how much I've missed you. Young Jinchuriki added sarcastically. Well, hello, fool. The fox grinned, obviously pleased that his Jinchuriki remained morally unharmed from the oblique glances of the residents. If he had his way, this village would not exist now for a long time. I had a strange dream. Ignoring the insult, the girl went straight to the purpose of the visit. This is not a dream, but a part of remembering your past, said the fox. You made a promise to save this world. I remember, Jinchuriki replied and smiled happily, anticipating something in her skull. So I have to save this world somehow, but how? It's up to you to decide for yourself, Naruko. The fox replied, but first you need to regain your strength or become twice as strong as before. Oh, look who's there. The fox grinned maliciously. Naruko didn't even have time to squeak, as she was directly thrown out of the subconscious. That bastard. She complained, but realizing what this red rug meant, she immediately relieved her anger a little and calmed down in the right way. Not far away, about 2 meters from Uzumaki, a boy of her age was standing at the training ground. He had unruly ashen hair, dark eyes. The boy was dressed in a gray sweatshirt, on top of which was a pale green scarf with patterns in the form of dark green circles, on both sides of which there were short lines of the same color. All this was complemented by a dark blue mask covering the lower part of the face. Interesting. Good old Kakashi-sensei. The blonde grinned in her head, remembering about her former sensei. She also mentally noted that Hataki wore a mask even as a child, which caused her some relief. The blonde lady did not hesitate to walk to Kakashi, desperately wanting to make friends with him, and maybe even become the closest person for him who would be ready to help and take care of him in any situation. Hello. Great at throwing kunai. What's your name? I'm Naruko Uzumaki. The girl quickly blurted out in one breath, Kakashi Hataki. The future member of the ANBU coldly replied, not paying any attention to her and continuing to throw kunai at the target. Can I try it? Jinchuriki asked with interest. Try it. The boy grinned, preparing for the defeat of this possibly newly made girlfriend. Taking the kunai in her hands, the girl aimed at the middle of the target, preparing to throw the weapon. Right now, she trowels and threw the kunai with smooth movements, hitting exactly the target. Hurrah! She jumped up triumphantly. Kakashi stared at the target in surprise. Admit it, have you been practicing? Turning to the girl, he asked in a commanding tone. No, well, I mean yes, but this is my first time. Jinchuriki answered indistinctly, trying to find the right words. Fool. The fox growled menacingly somewhere in her subconscious. Just say that you've been practicing, then there will be no suspicion. You're right as always, Ku. The girl agreed, remembering the days of training under the guidance of Kakashi. What I would do without you. At such kind words, Kurama only raised his chin high, and blossomed into a satisfied smile. Hey, are you there? A voice brought her out of her subconscious. That he was looking at a new acquaintance in bewilderment. Oh, yes, sorry, I was thinking. Jinchuriki scratched the back of her head guiltily. What did you say? I asked you how you learned to throw kunai. The gloomy boy crossed his arms on his chest, waiting for an answer to his modest question. I told you, this is my first time throwing kunai. Kunichi tried to lie in the body of a child. I see lies in your eyes. Tell the truth. The young genius continued to insist on his own. Kakashi. Naruko moaned in resignation. I learned it myself, I trained a lot. Satisfied with the answer? Quite. The tormentor answered with satisfaction. Are you jealous? What makes you think that? I understand your question. Do you want me to teach you? Uzumaki asked with a foxy smile. I can do without your help. He waved it away. Strange, Kakashi mused to himself. At first she says that she throws for the first time, but in fact she trained herself, but her posture, her facial expressions of movement. It feels like she's a shinobi of a rank higher than Chunin. If that's the case, then there will be benefits from her. Although you know, he said hesitantly. I don't mind. Great. Tomorrow at this training ground, at the same time. The girl announced. See you tomorrow. Without waiting for Kakashi to say anything in response, the girl quickly left the landfill. A month has passed since the day of their acquaintance. The training took place under the guidance of Jinchuriki, or, more simply, Kurama. Every day the newly made friends trained. On weekends, they walked anywhere, talking about different topics. Every day the friendship between Kakashi and Naruko became stronger and stronger, promising to grow into something more in the future, well, or vice versa. Well done, Kakashi. The girl praised her friend. Thanks. The boy sounded embarrassed. Your progress this month is off the charts. No wonder you're a genius. At the skeptical look of her friend, she hastened to explain. You've learned a lot in a month, and you picked up everything on the fly. Databeo, Kakashi grunted with satisfaction, mentally celebrating a possible victory. Realizing that at such a pace he will surpass the mentally appointed rival. Next year I will go to the academy. No matter how much Naruko announced, Kakashi remained silent. There will be new acquaintances, new friends, I'll go. The boy just snorted. Too late. Oh, okay, see you later. The girl said goodbye. The boy left in silence, not really hearing the words of his girlfriend. He was in too much of a hurry. Naruko was left alone to sit alone. Deciding that there was no need to waste time, Uzumaki went to the kingdom of Martha, so it seemed at first glance. Hello, Ku. The girl greeted her tailed one, hugging him tightly by the muzzle and stroking him. Do you remember about my promises? Of course, you fool. The fox replied sarcastically. It's hard to forget, especially when it was you who made promises, not really knowing how to fulfill it. I'm not so irresponsible. Jinchuriki said in embarrassment. I think, after restoring my strength, I need to make sure that Akatsuki does not form. So you're going to do everything yourself? Okay, I'll make sure you don't die halfway through. The fox made a venomous joke, grinning in a satisfied smile. Naturally with you. The girl snorted resentfully, wrinkling her nose. Where will I go without you? For me, the most precious thing, Databeo. And don't forget to call your Kakashi, he's not mine. Uzumaki playfully punched Kurama in the nose, out of indignation. Well, I was joking, why hit me right away? He growled back. Yes, if it wasn't for me, you would have died of loneliness long ago. I used to cope somehow, the blonde reminded about her past. Yes, and then you tried to break out of me. Don't remind me. The fox snapped. It's all in the past, and it turns out that you know what conscience means. And I thought that you were a vindictive demon fox who wants to destroy Konoha. Laughed Jinchuriki. Hush. Kurama growled resentfully. Tomorrow you will train twice as hard. Uzumaki didn't even have time to protest indignantly, as she was thrown out of her subconscious. The next day, a real hell began for Naruko. If she rested for 3 or 4 hours in that world, then this time she had to work twice as hard. Such training completely knocked the girl out of her strength. Yes, she had long been accustomed to the loads, but given her current situation, it became something worse than hell for Jinchuriki every time Kakashi came to the training ground. Instead of a positive and hyperactive Jinchuriki, he saw a corpse who was trying to catch his breath. Of course, Uzumaki's training did not bypass the boy himself. Every time he came to her, she immediately drove him to run in Konoha's circle. The girl ran with him as a company. Hatake wondered how Naruko could be so gullible, naive and hyperactive. These are difficult times, and she behaves as if for her the concept of war means something positive and anticipatory. At this rate, she would have gone straight to the coffin, barely hitting the battlefield. But seeing how hard she trains and how she gets stronger and stronger every time, he involuntarily wanted to become the same. Why do you train so hard? The boy suddenly blurted out. Noticing how the girl froze for a minute, and then her expression became serious, Kakashi tensed. I have to do my duty. Uzumaki answered shortly. It was clear from her tone that she was tense and angry. Which one? Hatake asked. There are things that are not very pleasant to tell. She answered rudely. The friends spent the rest of the evening at the training ground. They only occasionally shared their impressions and talked about different topics. So their meeting would have continued if Kakashi had not stopped going to his girlfriend, which alarmed her. At first, Naruko thought that he was ill, but her guesses quickly dissipated when a little more than 2 weeks passed. He's never been gone longer than that. Did I really offend him? Thought Jinchuriki, lying in a small clearing, shrouded in various beautiful flowers. No, I didn't tell him anything like that. Get down into the subconscious, you fool. The fox growled somewhere inside. Having dutifully repaired the kyubi, Naruko sat down in the lotus position, starting to vibrate. What's wrong, red carpet? Kunoichi asked, looking forward to Kurama's answer. Kakashi's past. The fox answered shortly, watching the reaction of his Jinchuriki. Oh, no. Naruko hung for a couple of minutes, realizing everything, and then frowned. The death of his father. The blonde immediately rushed to look for her friend. She must help, she must support him. Naruko ran around the village as fast as she could, trying to find Kakashi. Seeing the surprised looks of the residents of Konoha, she only briefly grinned or ignored. She explored the whole neighborhood in the hope of finding a crazy boy. But unfortunately he was nowhere to be found. It would seem that all hope has already faded for Jinchuriki, until she noticed the familiar crown at the cemetery. Uzumaki went there without much hesitation. Hello, Dadabayo. Restraining her desire to lash out with lectures, the girl politely greeted for decency. How are you feeling? Where have you been? Kakashi remained silent, or ignored. Emptiness and indifference were clearly visible on his face. I'm talking to you. The girl said warily, coming a little closer. Why did you come? The boy asked in a whisper. What? Sorry, I can't hear you. Why did you come? Hatake asked, already shouting. I didn't ask you to come for me. I just came to check on you, to find out how you're doing. The girl's voice became quieter and quieter with each uttered phrase. Go away. Hatake ordered in a cold tone. But. The girl did not have time to finish. Go away. Kakashi punched his girlfriend right in the shoulder, but she skillfully dodged. Kakashi didn't want to listen to her, he didn't want anything else in this world. He wanted only one thing: death. Everything is lost for him, he has lost the dearest and closest person, he has lost his father, I just want to help you, why immediately attack with fists? Kunoichi asked, restraining herself. I don't need your pathetic help. The orphan snapped, you're my friend. I'm worried about you, I just want to help you, Databeo, leave me alone. Okay, whatever you say. Uzumaki said as she left, mentally trying to calm herself down so as not to punch her friend back. She's still a friend to him. About a year has passed since that day. Naruko continued to train hard, not sparing herself and her body. Right now, her strength could be compared to a strong Chunin. The academy is waiting for me. The girl announced positively. Hurry up, you fool. Otherwise you'll be late. The alarm clock growled, I'm already running. The girl snorted. Almost all the children were present at the academy. Each child had his own large or small company of loyal friends. Between all these unintelligible buzzes created by children, Kakashi was especially different, sitting alone reading a book. The female part of the class always pined for him, which caused envy among some boys, including Obito. So this zoo would have continued if Sensei hadn't entered. So, quiet class. The man tried to calm his students. We have a new one. Come in. The quiet noise immediately turned into dead silence. All the children's attention was focused only on the door, waiting with interest for the arrival of their new classmate. A beautiful girl of about 7 years old came into the classroom. Her golden blonde hair, with a blood-red tip, sparkled like gold, reflecting the rays of the sun. Her sapphire eyes were like the sky, looking into them, you melted. Tanned fair skin, and all this was complemented by 3 fox mustaches on the face on both sides of the cheeks. She is wearing a black turtleneck, with iridescent red on the sleeve, long to the elbow. Along with all this, there was a sleeveless jacket. Hello. I'm Naruko Uzumaki, Databeo. I love ramen and workouts. I don't like a lot of things. My dream is that you won't be interested. The girl greeted her new classmates. Oh shit, Kakashi groaned mentally. Ahem, good. Sit in the places where it will be more convenient for you. Sensei ordered. Naruko looked around the whole class. After all, in truth, there were 2 empty seats. One is near a girl with purple stripes on her face, and the other is with Kakashi. Without becoming particularly tormented with places, the young Jinchuriki went to the girl just said. Sitting down next to her, the teacher did not hesitate to start the lesson. Pust. Uzumaki whispered to her neighbor at the desk. What's your name? Rin Noera. The newly made friend also answered in a whisper. Nice to meet you. Me too. Naruko said a little louder. The blonde spent all the remaining lessons in the Kingdom of Martha, because she knew the whole topic of the academy like all 5 of her fingers. Still, why study all these subjects at school? They won't help on the battlefield against the enemy. I won't talk about how the Second Shinobi War was like and when. Uzumaki mused. Yes, the academy was made so that children would find their childhood, but damn it. They don't even teach chakra controls here. The maximum that they teach here is to throw shurikens, and then you can learn this yourself with the help of books or the help of parents. Ha! You would have been lost long ago without my help. The fox growled contentedly. Well, yes, a perverted hermit in Kakashi smoke on the sidelines. The young Kunoichi grumbled in response. I used to get stronger without your help. How ungrateful. As if like a child, the fox grinned resentfully. Who trained you all these 2 years? Nagato and her friends? Of course you are, Databeo. Red carpet, you're the best. Kyubi just snorted contentedly. About Nagato, he seems to live in our village, he lives and does not deny himself anything. The interlocutor added. Your name is Naruko, pst, wake up. The girl called her new friend in a whisper, weakly shaking the blonde in the hope that she would wake up. What? Kunoichi asked, slowly opening her eyelids. They're calling you, Uzumaki Naruko. Are you here? Sensei asked sternly. Hi. The girl answered abruptly, standing up. Because of this abrupt action, it began to darken in her eyes. The whole class stared expectantly at the newcomer, including Kakashi, which caused the blonde to involuntarily shiver. How many countries are there in the nation and who is their Kage? The man asked, raising his eyebrow. Let me think. Konohagakure no Sato, the current Kage is Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sunagakure no Sato, the current Kage is the race of Yondaime Kazekage. Kirigakure no Sato, 6 shinobi were chosen as Kage. Kumogakure no Sato is the current Kage, Yondaime Raikage. Iwagakure no Sato, the current Kage Noki. Well done, sit down. Sensei barely uttered. They did not go through this topic, but the question was rather rhetorical. Naruko sat down in her seat under everyone's surprised gaze. She felt somehow special, like a white crow among black relatives. Yes, even Kakashi was surprised, but quickly pulled himself together and returned his unconstrained and cold appearance. Wow, that was unexpected. Rin shared her impressions in a whisper. Uzumaki know how to surprise, Databeo. The interlocutor giggled. Kakashi was sitting in his seat with his fist clenched until his knuckles turned white. He was angry, he's jealous. Had his ex-girlfriend progressed that much? Yes, she worked very hard. He felt her strong aura. Because of this he felt like a bug standing next to Naruko. Hatake will also work like her. Kakashi will definitely surpass her. Naruko did not blink an eye as the lesson ended. All the children went home accompanied by their parents, or one of them. Seeing how her classmates were telling her parents today when they left, she felt lonely. Since childhood, she has been and remained an orphan, without the support and love of loved ones. Only Kurama could support her, and then, rarely. Not wanting to waste time in vain, the Jinchuriki headed to the clearing, wanting to have a good rest, and then start training. Not noticing how Two Tails followed her, she went straight to the desired place. Having reached the appointed place, the young Kunoichi lay down on the soft green grass. The wind enveloped her delicate blonde hair, the smell of flowers enveloped the girl from all sides. I wish I could lie like this every day, Jinchuriki voiced her thoughts aloud. Nobody cancelled the training, the fox reminded, and then added, you're being watched. The girl became alert, standing up and looking around. There was no one there, only the faint sound of birds singing. A skilled shinobi, the blonde thought. Hey! You've been spotted. Come out, Databeo. Nothing happened for a while. A girl with short brown hair and purple lines on the sides of her cheeks came out of the bushes. She was dressed in a black shirt, and also wore a light pink dress with cuts on the sides and a ribbon. Hi, sorry if you scared me. Noera smiled guiltily. And you me? Obito supported his friend. By the way, we probably don't know each other. I am Obito Uchiha, glad to meet you, it's okay. I think you already know me, mutually. Naruko exclaimed cheerfully. How about a workout? I don't mind. Rin nodded. Then me too. The boy agreed with his beloved. Naruko, there's a third one here somewhere. The fox warned. I know, Databeo. Well, shall we start? Jinchuriki asked. Both interlocutors only nodded silently. Naive. A voice sounded somewhere behind a tree. The training sessions were simple. Naruko taught Obito and Rin shadow cloning. When asked how she knew this technique, she only said that she had been helped to learn, and who exactly, she purposefully kept silent, not wanting to answer this question. After several attempts, Obito and Rin managed to create one clone exactly like the original. Both jumped up joyfully, "Well done." The blonde praised her students. "I thought it would be much easier." Uchiha confessed, sitting down on the ground, "Me too." Uzumaki answered honestly. "I thought so at first." A group of 3 friends peacefully communicated on all sorts of topics. Then about the Kage of the 5 great countries, then about your favorite food. So their endless conversation would have continued if it hadn't been about Jinchuriki. Who are the Jinchuriki? Rin asked thoughtfully, by the way, who are they? Jinchuriki, after being silent for a second, Kunoichi continued. These are people in whom the tailed beasts are sealed, each of them has a special power. They are used as weapons, so almost every village has its own Jinchuriki. Naruko replied under the attentive gaze of her friends. How do you know that? Uchiha squinted suspiciously. I'm one of them. Uzumaki lifted her turtleneck, showing off her belly with a seal, which caused surprised gasps from Rin and Obito. By the way, Kyuubi has his own character. They deserve attention and respect, Dadabayo. And that's true. The fox growled contentedly, but then he became alert. Are you sure you can trust them? Don't worry, Ku, I trust them. The blonde reassured him. I see, so you're one of them. Made sure, then asked Noera. Yes. Just promise you won't tell anyone? They both nodded. Naruko recently became a genin. The exam was held the same way as in that world. She easily created 5 clones, for which she received her Kahoni protector. Was it worth seeing her classmates screaming and jumping for joy? Of course, yes. The last day at the academy, the kids were talking about how cool it is to be a shinobi. To save your home, to serve the people, to fulfill missions. As if not, the world of shinobi is cruel. The blonde knew what kind of shinobi to be. She knew that she would have to sacrifice her life for Konoha. Uzumaki had been ready for this since birth. Don't hang your nose, you fool. The fox encouraged his Jinchuriki. Are you Uzumaki or a winner? I'm Uzumaki, Dadabayo. Naruko declared, so she pulled herself together and stopped whining. Kyuubi growled, thank you Ku. The blonde smiled sunnily. While Kunoichi was talking to her tailed beast, their sensei was distributing teams consisting of genins and hunin. And so, team number 7, Obito Uchiha, Rin Noera, Kakashi Hatake and Uzumaki Naruko. The mentor is Minato Namikaze. We're on the same team. Uzumaki jumped up joyfully, hugging her teammate. Obito smiled happily. He will be on the same team with the object of adoration. Kakashi just didn't say anything. Children, sit down with the current teammates and wait for your mentors in the classroom. Sensei ordered as he left the classroom. Obito. Naruko called her friend. Promise not to be late. Otherwise you'll get it from me, Dadabayo. I'll try. Uchiha scratched his head guiltily. Kakashi, what do you think? I have already turned to my former friend Kunoichi. I don't care. Oh, come on, you think, quarreled and what's next? We are a team, which means that the work needs to be done together accordingly. Naruko gave a lecture. You know, he reminds me of your Sasuke. The fox laughed. The main thing is that he does not leave Konoha, Dadabayo. The blonde supported Kyuubi's game. Kurama burst out laughing at the top of his voice, remembering how Naruko ran after Sasuke 24/7. I put the mission of the PRI above everything. Kakashi said coldly, comrades first of all. Uzumaki briefly insisted on her own. I'm not a scum like you. Suddenly Naruko hit Kakashi in the left cheek. Of all the children sitting here, you are the scum. Those who put their comrades above everything else are scum, those who don't care about them are even worse. Remember that, Kakashi Hatake. With these words, Jinchuriki sat down in her seat, ignoring the surprised and slightly frightened looks of her teammates and the whole class. After a while, the teams were picked up by their mentors. A young man with blonde hair and sky-blue eyes entered the classroom. He wore the standard Jonin uniform. I, Minato Namikaze, am taking my team number 7. Dad. Naruko whispered faintly. Comment on the second chance. I will be glad to volunteer who will become a beta. Thanks in advance to the people who correct my mistakes. Happy face, please leave feedback. Minato's team consisting of Obito, Rin, Kakashi and Naruko have just recently become Chunins. They passed the test with bells with the help of Uzumaki's instructions, working in a team. Although Hatake initially refused to work together, after receiving a savory slap on the head from the blonde, he was forced to agree to, let's go to Ichiraku Ramen, Databayo? Kunoichi suggested. We've only been there recently. Obito groaned in resignation. He knew that her friend Death was so stubborn. Oh, come on. You don't yell at the Hokage when he always gives us D-rank missions, Kunoichi snorted resentfully. I'm in favor. Rin supported. Here. At least one adequate person in our team. The blonde was mocked. Pfft, it's like you're one of them. Ash-haired man said coldly. Well, you are definitely not adequate, but the Obito is questionable. Making a thoughtful look, Kunoichi mocked again. Well done, Naruko. Keep it up. The fox was laughing at the top of his voice. Well, I'm Uzumaki, Databayo. The girl smiled in all 32 teeth. Hey! I am adequate. Obito glowered at the object of anger. Yes. And who kisses the photo with? Kakashi's mouth was quickly gagged. Hush. All red as a ripe tomato, whispered Uchiha, and then continued. Shut up, he's what? Naruko asked, with Rin nodding. Nothing. Red, I replied sharply. Without letting Kakashi even squeak. And nothing like that, really. The female part of the team exchanged glances, and then squinted suspiciously. Okay. The girls answered without agreement. Hey Obito. Here for a minute, please. Naruko called. What is it? Uchiha asked. Moving away to a sufficient distance so that their incomprehensible teammates would not hear them, Uzumaki started the conversation first. You like Rin, don't you? The blonde whispered with a sly smile. What? Of course not. Ripe as a tomato again, Obito shouted. He reminds me of Hinata. She smiled sadly. What makes you think that? You're always staring at her. The girl smiled. Oh, come on. I am, from the future, you will be together, Databayo. Fool. The fox growled. Are you completely already? Well, I'm joking. Kunoichi snorted resentfully, crossing her arms over her chest. And if he thought that you were really from the future, oh, come on. I was joking, there is no need to be paranoid about every phrase. I have an idea. Naruko pushed Obito towards Rin, and she stood between them. Why don't you both take a walk? Uzumaki smiled slyly. Chat about everything. For that matter, I'll run with Kakashi. I'll give a lecture. I'm not. What? Hatake asked, raising an eyebrow. Nothing. Grabbing the ash-haired one by the shoulder, Naruko quickly dragged him into the park, ignoring the boy's protests. Good luck to both of you. The blonde shouted at the last, smiling slyly. Noticing how Obito tries not to look Rin in the eye. Konoha Park. This is probably the most favorite place for Uzumaki. She loved to walk here every day for a span. To enjoy the fresh air, to smell the smell of beautiful flowers, to lie on the green soft grass, which called her that way. This place became something like a second home for her. Every time she was sad or lonely, she came here in the hope that the bad mood would immediately change to a good one. Uzumaki walked on the fence up to her knees. "Well, why did you drag me here?" asked Kakashi, about whom Naruko had already forgotten about existence. To talk. She answered honestly. "You've become withdrawn since that incident. You know, I'm worried. I can't let you go on a different path. I can do without your support." He snapped. "Oh, yes. Who taught you different techniques? Some man from the other world?" Kunoichi snorted sarcastically. "Very funny, I'm independent. Therefore, I can do everything myself." Jinchuriki landed gracefully right in front of him. Because of which he recoiled. "What, are you going to hit me again?" Kakashi prepared for a counterattack. Naruko's hand went to Hitaki's face, forcing him to squint. She touched his face, stroking it along with the mask and looking at him sadly. "What are you?" He was interrupted. "I know you're lonely. If you want, we can talk soul to soul tonight in that clearing." Kunoichi smiled her trademark smile. Kakashi removed the girl's hand, moving a little further away. "You sound like you know more about me than I do. Do you really know my future too?" The boy was wary. "Believe me, I know who you will grow up to be. I know how much pain you will experience in the future. But you continued to live." Kakashi looked into the blonde's eyes. He did not see the lies in her eyes, only sympathy and irritation. "Pfft, I believed a chatterbox like you. Whatever you want, but know that I don't need anyone's support." The ash-haired one roughly waved away and left. Does she know my future? Kakashi thought finally. He's not coming. The fox voiced his thoughts aloud. Maybe, but he will know where to find me when he needs support or talk. Uzumaki agreed. Do you think you can pull him out of the shadows? Looking intently at Jinchuriki, Kyubi asked. I pulled Sasuke out of the shadows. If you can't help Kakashi, I'll straighten his brain, as I did with Neji, Gaara, Nagato and Obito back then. Kunoichi replied sadly, remembering her old friends. Yeah, your narcotherapy is stronger than all your techniques. Kurama chuckled. Uzumaki, we are all like that, Dadabayo. At the Hokage residence, tomorrow go to the front line. Ordered the third. Hi. Minato's team replied in unison. Quickly leaving the office, the team headed home, chatting on the way. Finally a serious mission. Obito was delighted. Don't be late, otherwise we'll leave without you. Naruko joked. Can you stop joking about my being late? Having looked at Uzumaki, Uchiha asked. It's not my fault that you're always late for a meeting or a mission, calm down. What a kindergarten. Rin intervened in the conversation. Both children turned away from each other, crossing their arms over their chests and pouting sweetly. But really, not shinobi, but some kind of kindergarten. Kyubi chuckled. None of your business, Red Rug. Uzumaki snorted. By the way, Kushina invited us to visit. Remembering the conversation with the elder Uzumaki, Noara said. I will refuse. Kakashi refused. No, you're coming with us and it's not up for discussion. Jinchuriki snapped. If you refuse, I will get you from the other world, Dadabayo, and you try. And here I will try, Dadabayo. Angrily looking at Kakashi, Kunoichi said. And so the conversation continued. Ash-haired somehow tried to leave unnoticed, but Uzumaki always pulled him into conversation, which irritated him. The team reached the painfully familiar house of Minato and Kushina. Crossing the threshold, Naruko shook. She will see her mother, who does not know that almost every day she sees her own daughter from the future. Rin knocked on the door, patiently waiting for them to open. There you are. Come in faster and don't be shy. The bloody habanero stepped aside, inviting guests to her house. Hello Kushina-san. 3 chunins greeted each other. Kakashi. The blonde whispered away the silent friend, looking at him menacingly, promising quick reprisals. Hello, Kushina-san. Hataki greeted him with resignation. Minato's team was currently in the abandoned territory of a once beautiful house. How long has he been there, Databeo? Uzumaki moaned. Have patience. Ash-haired said, sitting on the roof of an abandoned building. It's like you have it. The blonde insulted the answer. The teammate jumped off the roof, landing successfully and approaching the sitting offender. Unlike you, I have it. He said, hovering over the rising girlfriend. Well, yes, I believed you, Baka. Calm down, please. Rin interjected. Rin, don't bother. Kunoichi said rudely. Oh, now something funny is going to happen, just like when you and Sasuke were rivals, an anticipatory voice sounded somewhere in the subconscious. There were times, Databeo. Do you want to fight, Uzumaki? Kakashi looked his opponent straight in the eyes. Yes, but know this. I'll win by 1 or 2, you're a bug for me. The blonde grinned impudently. We'll check it out right now. That's enough. Rin screamed desperately. Both chunins took out a kunai and jumped away from each other at a sufficient distance. Both stood in a fighting stance, waiting for the opponent's first blow. Noera tried to stop them, but all her attempts were even. It would seem that right now Kakashi and Naruko will throw kunai suddenly to a friend. I'm here. Obito shouted, running up. Sorry for being late, Obito. Help, these two will start a fight right now, they may get hurt. Rin shouted, hoping that a friend would help. I won't lose to you, Uzumaki. Ignoring the arrival of Uchiha, Hataki shouted. I really want to lose to you, Databeo. Uzumaki shouted back. Stop it. Obito and Rin stepped between the two teammates. Calm down, who they say. Uchiha shouted. Are we enemies or who? Sorry, I just lost my temper. Naruko said softly. Kakashi remained silent, ignoring his comrades and leaving outside Konoha. The 3 remaining silently followed him, not forgetting to take briefcases with vital necessities. The chunins were silent all the way, only occasionally stopping for a rest. The tension grew more and more with each trap found. The eerie silence would have continued if Obito hadn't decided to break the oppressive silence. So, where's Minato-sensei? Uchiha asked warily. I don't know, I just said that I went somewhere. Uzumaki Jr. replied. Yes, you're a know-it-all. Kakashi sneered venomously. Don't provoke me into a fight. Kunoichi snapped. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. Calm down or we will fail the mission. Rin ordered. Hi. The 2 Nido enemies did not agree to answer. A few days later, Minato's team was running through a huge bamboo forest. Tired shinobi Konoha decided to stop for the last rest, successfully landing on a small swamp. Jinchuriki became alert, looking around while Kakashi signaled to stop. Enemy shinobi. She shouted, throwing a kunai over Hataki, aiming at the enemy's shoulder. He skillfully dodged in the air. Someone invisible stunned the younger teammate. The chunins turned around sharply when they saw how the enemy shinobi from the hidden stone captured Noera. Rin. Shouted Uzumaki and Uchiha. She's coming with us. Said the enemy. What did you do to her? Obito asked angrily. She's just sleeping. We need her. The second one answered. Let her go, and you try. The enemy shinobi disappeared in a thick ball of smoke. Follow them. Obito commanded decisively. Yes, Kakashi, let's run. Naruko supported. Kakashi silently lowered his gaze. Kakashi. What do you mean? Uzumaki was indignant. We have to complete the mission together. Kakashi said coldly. Preferably faster. Are you crazy? Do you even know what you're saying? Obito asked excitedly. Naruko grabbed her friend's left shoulder, calming him down. I know what I'm saying. Looking up at his comrades, Hatake said. These two want to know what we're up to, so they won't kill her yet, until they find out the right information. If they find out our tactics, we're finished. But for a ninja, the main thing is the mission. That's what the code says, Kakashi finished. Send this fucking code to hell and away. Uzumaki, not restraining herself with all her strength, pressed Ashhair to the nearest bamboo. Her sky-blue eyes took on a bloody red hue, the lines on the sides of her cheeks took on a clearer appearance, ordinary teeth acquired terrifying fangs. She looked a lot more like a demon now than before. Do you even know how much she saved you? We've all tried to help you, we've tried to take care of you, and you don't give a damn about us. Having calmed down a little, she released the surprised and slightly frightened Hatake. Naruko. Obito silently watched her actions until she released Kakashi. Obito, come on, let's not waste time on this brat. Uzumaki called out as she left. We need to save Rin urgently. You didn't overdo it with the force? Kurama asked. And then the boy got a lot. I don't really care. Jinchuriki snapped. Let him figure out now what is more important to him, the mission or the comrades. Dadabayo, my praises. The fox pointedly clapped his hands. How unexpected. Get praise from the fox demon himself. Kunoichi laughed sarcastically. Are you sure you can leave him alone? Obito was wary. Don't worry, I've left my clones in case he gets attacked. The blonde reassured him. Tell me, do you like him? Obito looked at his friend, noticing a slight blush on her face. Yes, but sometimes it seems to me that I hate him so much that I'm ready to help him get on the right path. She replied, you're a good friend. Like that time with Nagato. Memories flooded Kunoichi. Large trees enveloped the entire gaze of the young Chunins. Naruko and Obito ran through the dense thicket of the forest, trying to find the kidnapped teammate. They have to help her, they have to save her, and they don't give a damn about the code. Comrades are first of all for these two. It doesn't matter if he's a renegade or a hero. The main thing is help and support from loved ones. You'll have to use the hermit mode, the blonde whispered, mentally praying that the red-eyed man would not see her in this mode. I found it. Obito called softly to his teammate, pointing to the entrance to the cave. We can do it. Uchiha patted his cheeks, creating an extra sound with these actions. Enemy shinobi inside a small cave heard an uncharacteristic sound for a quiet neighborhood. I'll deal with them. Said one of them. Try to come quickly. The second one said gloomily. Camouflage concealment technique. After folding the seals, the enemy shinobi named Taiseki disappeared. We need to follow the plan, Dadabayo. Uzumaki was saying. Behind the unsuspecting Jinchuriki, the enemy landed quietly, taking out his kunai and preparing to deliver a fatal blow to the back. Naruko, from behind. Obito shouted, trying to shield her, but fortunately everything went well. Kakashi, who came up in time, struck the enemy shinobi. Taiseki jumped to another tree branch. Naruko, are you okay? Hatake asked Kunoichi's condition first. And you turn out to be adequate, it's fine. She joked in response. How are you, Obito? Already turning to a friend, he asked, both good and bad, silver hair and a blade. Konoha's white fang. The shinobi from the hidden stone stammered in shock. That was my father's name. Hatake corrected. I see, the spawn of White Fang, Taiseki continued, folding the seal, then I don't need to worry. You, Kakashi wanted to object something in response, but Uzumaki attacked. Throwing kunai at the enemy, while creating 5 shadow clones. Save Rin, and I will detain him, Dadabayo. She shouted. Don't waste time. The enemy shinobi disappeared, making Naruko alert. No, she wasn't worried about herself, she was worried about the safety of her comrades. Okay, there's no time, hermit mode. She whispered. Closing his sky blue eyes and collecting the natural chakra, mixing it with his own. Orange rims appeared around her eyes, the pupil became horizontal, resembling a toad. Upholstered in the back. Kunoichi shouted, turning to her comrades. The blow was struck at Kakashi, cutting his left eye deeply with a kunai. Blood trickled from his wound. No. The blonde shouted, scattering 3 clones and running up to her friend. Kakashi. Obito was trying to help in some way. These kids are strong, especially that blonde one, but they're still little brats. I have to be careful. Taisaku thought to himself. I have a first aid kit. Obito, please watch my back, my clones will help with this. The blonde took out a first aid kit from her right hip bag. Taking out bandages and starting to bandage the left side of Kakashi's face. At the request of Uzumaki. Obito, with tears in his eyes, covered his friends' backs, remembering his own and sensei's words. He gained determination and courage. He was ready to kill the enemy for the sake of saving his comrades. The clones were looking around the neighborhood. What's wrong with your eyes? Hatake carefully examined Uzumaki's eyes. It doesn't matter now. She answered shortly. Your health is much more important, Dadabayo. Kakashi grinned, even though it wasn't visible under the mask. He closed his one remaining eye, remembering all the happy time spent with this cheerful disaster. Why don't you kill that brat of a stone at once? The fox asked, yawning. Obito should awaken Sharingan, as far as I remember. Kakashi told me about it, and I don't want to ask too many questions, Dadabayo. She replied. So I remembered. So how long will it take you to recover your memories? I think that 2/5 of it has recovered for sure. She said thoughtfully. The clones scattered, protecting the original. The enemy is approaching Obito. A kick in the heart, and... How? Scarlet blood burst out of Taiseki's mouth. What are those red eyes? The last breath and the body fell breathlessly. Obito froze in place like a statue on display. I did it. He thought incredulously. I was able to protect my comrades. Obito, called Naruko. You have awakened Sharingan. We need to save Rin. He shouted in a hurry. Stop. We need to come up with a plan. The blonde grabbed her friend by the shoulder. Just attacking the enemy like that is like going suicidal, Dadabayo. You're right. Obito sat down next to his comrades. What's wrong with your eyes? It doesn't matter now. Hatake answered for Jinchuriki. So Kakashi and I create a clone and send them to the enemy. Then we will attack the enemy. Obito, since your Sharingan has awakened, at this time you will try to pass unnoticed to Rin and release her. The teammates listened attentively to her. One-eyed and blonde folded the seals. 2 clones appeared near them. There. Pointing to the entrance of the cave, they ordered. The copies obediently headed inside. Obito act. Uchiha successfully landed on the ground, approaching and carefully examining the enemy's lair. Red Eye signaled to his teammates, who went down after him. The blonde created 2 clones, using them to create a Rasengan. The male part of the team opened its mouth to ask a completely logical question. How? But seeing the evil look, the Kunoichi hurried to close their mouths. Nothing. Questions? She growled in a whisper. Naruko was waiting for the right moment to attack the enemy with a Rasengan. Kakashi, get ready. Kako stabbed Kunoichi's wedge right in the back. The clone instantly dissipated as if it had never existed. Clone. He thought, until he felt a strong blow from the back. Get cannabis. The blonde shouted, striking with a Rasengan. Naruko grabbed her kunai, throwing it at the paralyzed man. Hatake wasted no time, stabbed in the chest with his blade, jumping aside. Stunned, Kako pulled himself together. With the blades on his arm under the bandages, he formed scissors heading towards the blonde, preparing to decapitate her head. She skillfully dodged, bending her back backwards, touching the ground with her hands and holding on with them. Without holding back a sly smile, she kicked the enemy shinobi right at the thigh gap, forcing him and the fox to writhe in pain. Kakashi jumped on Kako's back while running, while sending the victim to kiss the hard ground with his foot. By this time, Naruko had successfully crawled out of the overhanging enemy, heading towards Uchiha and Noera. Hatake followed her. Are you hurt? One Eye asked excitedly. There is no scratch, but I will live, Dadabayo. She answered positively. Then you will tell me everything about your eyes and how you learned to use the Minato-sensei technique. Kunoichi just nodded silently. While the 2 teammates were delaying time, Obito carefully walked around the battlefield, reaching the Tide Rin. Develop. Nohar's eyes took on glare, obsessively watching the situation unfold. We've come to save you, Rin. You're safe now. Uchiha said soothingly, untying his beloved. Let's go, Dadabayo. Uzumaki commanded, and you don't have a bad combination. Getting up with a grin on his face, Kako said, folding the seals. You're in my hands now. Earth element, a devastating rockfall. The cave began to shake, the stones began to collapse, forming a terrifying rockfall. Damn it, let's run. Hatake shouted as he ran away. Once stones fell unexpectedly, hitting Hatake. .2 Kakashi. Everyone shouted. Obito ran up to him, grabbed him and threw him to the female part of the team. .3 The collapse fell on Uchiha, completely paralyzing his right side of his body. Rin and Kakashi, who had just woken up, watched in horror as a landslide collapsed on their comrade. Naruko ran after him, hoping that she would have time to save him. Smoke enveloped the entire cave. She didn't have time. Rin, Kakashi, Naruko, are you okay? Obito asked, lying under the rubble. Minato's team, or rather their remnants, looked at this terrifying picture. Rin couldn't help herself, she started crying. Hatake tried to move the stone, but given his current position, he simply will not succeed. No need for Kakashi. Obito smiled. It looks like this is my demise. The right side was completely crushed. I don't feel it. Why, Obito? Covering her mouth with her left hand, Noera said in tears, what have I done? Falling on all fours, the ash-haired one said, hitting the ground with his right hand. Damn it! If I had listened to you from the very beginning, you would still be alive. What have I done? Uzumaki muttered softly, holding her head. I had to save. I promised him that this war would be the last, but not at such a price. Fool. Releasing his ears, the fox said. He will live, remember, Madara. She said thoughtfully, exactly. He nodded. I'm not sure, Dadabayo, don't whine, everything will be fine. The fox reassured her, thanks Ku, I got better, but still. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Rin, I now know what to give Kakashi. Obito looked at Rin. Please transfer my Sharingan to him. The collapsed cave suddenly exploded. Hatake jumped out of it. Kako looked in shock towards the explosion, seeing Kakashi with tears in his eyes. You really are a child, said the other. Come here, Snot, I'll finish you and your friends right now. The ash-haired one opened his left eye, showing the Sharingan given by Obito. Something is wrong with this brat, the man thought. Kakashi, take care of Rin and Naruko. The son of White Fang grabbed the blade, quickly jumping up and heading towards the enemy. After doing a few somersaults in the air, he struck, as if with scissors he repelled the blow, while breaking Kakashi's blade into 2 pieces. Ash-haired landed and quickly began to fold the seals, creating a Chidori. Hit. Rin, don't be afraid. Obito barely spoke. Kakashi, Rin and Naruko run, I feel other shinobi. The blonde warned. We're leaving, Obito, I can't. Rin took the only remaining Uchiha hand. Other hidden stone shinobi appeared near the team. Hold my hand, Rin. Kakashi shouted, offering his hand. Enemy shinobi began to fold the seals. Red Eye reluctantly removed his hand from Nohar's hands. She stared at her fucking friend for a long time under the collapse. Again this damn rockfall. Rin grabbed Kakashi's hand, turning around one last time and looking at him. Holding back tears, she rose from the hole. The enemies attacked from all sides. Minato's team prepared for a counterattack, but something yellow slipped through each enemy shinobi. The blood rushed instantly. Konoha's yellow lightning has arrived to help. The news that Obito Uchiha died during the mission, rumors like the wind flew all over Konoha. Kushina was defeated, her pet died on this fucking mission. She thought of him as her own son, and now he's gone. Minato was no better, having learned about Uchiha's death when he arrived to help his remaining students. He barely restrained himself from rushing to that collapse and pulling Obito out. Rin was depressed. For a long time she put up with the fact that the person who tried to help her every time died before her eyes. The night, its rays illuminated the sleeping village. In the midst of all this silence, the screams of drunken Hunins that had recently left the bar could barely be heard. Chunin was lying in a small house, with ashen hair, covering his left eye with one hand. Curses, he was replaying this word in his head. Okay, I'll take a chance. Getting out of bed, Hatake, he did not change his clothes, since he would not sleep at night anyway, jumped out of the window. He went to the very clearing where he liked to walk as a child. The clearing under the moonlight looked like a small river. The moonbeams only complemented all this beauty. I didn't expect you to come. Naruko landed next to him. Did you want something? The blonde sat down on the soft grass, looking up at her companion. Hatake silently sat down next to her, just as she was looking at the moon. The chakra of that Kurama, who? Kakashi asked. Kurama is the name of the nine-tailed. She replied. About his chakra. He only shared his chakra with me when I got mad at an idiot like you. Hey. I don't. The blonde's laughter did not allow Hatake to finish. He paused, staring at her in surprise. I'm sorry, it's just that your offended face is worth it, Dadabayo. Wiping away invisible tears, Naruko hurried to explain the reason for the laughter. Any other questions? Your eyes, hermit mode. She said, and then added rudely. Don't even hope to find out how I know this. Anything else, Rasengan? I can't give an answer to that. She looked up at the moon again. Next, Dadabayo. That accident with Obito, the future Jonin barely muttered, not wanting to put this painful topic on hold. Why did you look so calm and determined, like his it's like you've seen so many deaths that it's already become commonplace for you. It's suspicious. The interlocutor was silent for a few minutes. She looked devastated. You know, I've lost a lot of people in my short life, but no matter how much I suffer, I'm not broken, Uzumaki said firmly. Well, how many loved ones have you lost? Kakashi squinted, watching his friend with sympathy. A lot, a lot. The blonde blurted out sadly. I'm sorry if I somehow touched your feelings with this topic. The ash-haired one let go of his gaze. No, it's okay, Dadabayo. Naruko put her head on her knees, looking at Hataki with a sad smile. Any more questions? What, then? Did Obito ask you when you left? Last question. Kakashi noticed a blush on the cheek of the interlocutor. It's not that important, Dadabayo. She replied. Don't you want to, or are you afraid? One Eye asked. I don't want to. So you're shy. What? The fact that I heard. Kakashi grinned. Hey! Naruko burst out laughing, playfully hitting her friend on the shoulder. It's a shame, Dadabayo. You remind me of Kushina-san. He confessed. Uzumaki froze for a moment, and then smiled at him with the most sincere smile. I like your smile. Without realizing it, Ash-haired blurted out, and then realizing his words, he was covered with a slight blush. Just don't take it seriously. I like you too. Kunoichi looked into his eyes, still continuing to smile. Kakashi remained silent, turning his head away due to embarrassment. It's fun to spend time with you. Kunoichi smiled in all 32 teeth. Especially in those old days. Yes, there were times. Kakashi was nostalgic, remembering those days. We would have continued to have fun if some idiot hadn't stopped coming to me because of depression. She quarreled. Well, it's not my fault. The future Jonin justified himself. Wow, how? Naruko laughed. The lovebirds chatted all night. Closer to the morning sunrise, the Chunins left the meeting place, going to their home and going to bed. A day, a week, a month, a year has passed. Only you blinked, and 2 years of your short life have already flown past your sensitive eyes. Minato's team is still in the same old composition, but only without the ever-late and irresponsible Obito Uchiha. Naruko has long since come to terms with his death, even from the very moment when he was still barely breathing and somehow talking under a big collapse. She was worried about the condition of her comrades. They were some kind of depressed. Knowing that Uchiha would survive thanks to Madara's help, she could say with certainty that Red Eye would definitely return, for Rin's sake, but when and how soon, only time will tell. For all these 2 years, Naruko noticed insignificant changes in the character of her friends. For example, Kakashi, from a selfish, arrogant and eternally obsessed with the code of the boy, became kinder and less, dumber or something. The younger Uzumaki was excited that after he felt the loss of another loved one on his own skin, Baka became even more attentive to the female part of the team. He took care of each of the girls, but to Naruko he showed some sympathy. She could not understand feelings. For her, they have always been a mystery of life. No, she knows what it's like to be able to feel, but love is for her a little mystery of the universe that needs to be guessed. Kurama always joked at her, sometimes touching on this topic, which only irritated her. Depression is depression's, but Uzumaki did not sit out of the blue. She wanted to make some kind of pity all the time, even called her friends, but they refused, finding millions of billions of reasons for this. Silence and peace slowly took possession of the Hokage residence. Sarutobi Hiruzen was sitting quietly in his chair, smoking his beloved pipe and enjoying the peace that he missed so much. Peace and quiet. Good night, he thought, naively. The old man is the third. The blonde shouted sharply with a kick, entering the office. The remaining members of the team followed her shamefacedly, along with their sensei, Minato. Naruko. Namikaze quarreled. Give us a mission. The girl demanded, ignoring the elder. Please, Databayo, fool, you're in front of the Hokage. Hatake supported his mentor in a whisper. Drive the mission old. As if they did not exist, the blonde brazenly declared. Oh, Naruko. The third frowned his eyebrows, rummaging through a large pile consisting of papers. He tried to quickly find a suitable mission, because he did not want to argue with her. The obstinacy of the Uzumaki clan flows in her veins. Finally, having found the right document, he said. So, Team Minato, your mission is to find the enemy camp. Hi, the team shouted. Okay, you can go tomorrow morning. Naruko, what the hell? The future member of the ANBU was indignant. Why? Simply. Just some rudeness, come on, baka, Jinchuriki snorted. That's how I treat him every time. You do understand that this is disrespectful, right? Oh, you should have seen how they treated me. Thought Naruko. Fool. The fox growled somewhere in the subconscious. Don't listen to these idiots. Call that old man at least the dumbest Hokage in shinobi history. Wow. Uzumaki smiled sarcastically. I didn't think that the almighty and the strongest Biju refers to the third one like that. Pf. I am the great nine-tailed demon fox, not some cute and fluffy lump. Yeah, everyone knows. The girl pointedly rolled her sky blue eyes. Familiar voices brought her out of her subconscious. Hey Naruko. Minato was desperately trying to reach the student. Huh? What is Databayo? The blonde raised an eyebrow. You sometimes look into the void during a conversation. Rin narrowed her eyes suspiciously. It feels like you're talking to someone. Pft. I've never heard such stupidity in my life. Are you talking to him? Hatake, who had been silent all this time, asked directly. There was an awkward silence. Part of the team looked at her expressively, waiting for an answer. You also used the hermit mode. Although only Jiraiya and Orochimaru know him. Silver-haired added. Rin and Minato opened their mouths in surprise. Surprise and suspicion could be seen in their eyes. You know what? Naruko glanced at him, releasing an intimidating aura. You got the answer, but everyone has their own skeletons in the closet, including me. And you? She glanced in the direction of Nohar and Namikaze. It shouldn't concern. She silently turned around and ran even faster, jumping from tree to tree. The stunned team followed her, asking a dozen questions in their minds. POV of Kakashi. Naruko, what are you hiding? You look like an ordinary strong kunoichi, but there is something dark inside you. Or does it just seem that way to me? Everyone has their own skeletons in the closet, but you especially have more. What are you hiding? I always feel some kind of misunderstanding on your part, as if you are trying to hide something from everyone, as if you know everything in front, as if you know the future. Rin didn't believe me. She thinks I went crazy because of Obito's death, but what if Naruko knows the future and it's true? What if she knows everything in advance and can stop the loss of loved ones, and maybe even a war? So many questions have accumulated, the answer of which obviously I will not know soon, and it is possible that I will never even get. Well, never mind, I'll make you tell me everything someday. A few days have passed since leaving Konoha. Almost every 1 or 2 days we stop for a rest. Of course, we are careful, enemy shinobi can be everywhere. I just hope that nothing happens to Naruko. Wait, what am I thinking? She's too cheerful for the rotten shinobi world. Why does she keep smiling, knowing that sooner or later she may lose everything she holds most dear, as I once lost my father? Rin began to listen to my words, strangely, very much. Probably after that case, she still realized that I was telling the truth. The thing is small, but pleasant. Finally, at least someone listens to me, and they don't think I'm crazy. There is a lot of road ahead, nothing. We are shinobi, this is a common thing for us. Well, Naruko's eyes flashed. Go ahead, Databayo. Comment on the new mission. Greetings, dear readers. Yes, I know that the part came out too small, you understand me, I am also a person who is busy from head to toe. I will try to release chapters more often and more. I am ready for sneakers and criticism, also not against a co-author or beta. Your author. You will never be able to solve the problem that has arisen if you keep the same mindset and the same approach that led you to this problem. Albert Einstein. Spring is a wonderful time of the year, at least that's what Uzumaki thought. The sun's rays have long pleased the residents with their warm visit, gifting the open space with their habitable strips. Delicious-smelling flowers will soon have to bloom and decorate the entire bare and tedious clearing. The wonderful, not cold weather allowed residents to walk in only t-shirts under the open sky, and so, on one of these magical sunny days, two very tired-looking kunoichi were walking in a small local park, peering into the azure sky. Blonde hair with red tips at the end fluttered in the wind like autumn fallen leaves. Weya, one of them roared. How tired I am, Databayo, nothing, you'll survive. The pink-haired woman nodded skeptically. She gave a slightly annoyed look at the interlocutor. You whine enough after a mission as it is. So you experience this as your first and yet. Peri.kra.schy, whine, la la la, I don't hear anything. The child playfully stuck out her pink tongue and squeezed her eyes shut. I was a child, and I remained a child. Hey, what do you think? Looking into the sky, Naruko said, addressing a green-eyed friend. Will our friendship be as strong as the only love uchi, or whatever, Databayo? Of course, Aho, asterisk. The owner of pink hair looked at the blonde, and then smiled gently. Do you promise, Sakura? The blonde's eyes flashed, completely ignoring the insult. Haha. Did you really believe it? Sakura's eyes instantly turned pitch black. How naive you are, what? The entire space surrounding the Jinchuriki began to slowly break and go into the void, like a vase that fell and instantly cracks into different pieces. All her friends and acquaintances began to appear from the shadows, with the same pink-haired, pitch-black eyes. Each of their eyes had some kind of black liquid flowing, like black tears. You're so naive. They all spoke in one voice, as if someone was controlling them like a doll. So useless, what? Why are you all bothering me, Databayo? Naruko looked at everyone in confusion. What do you want from me? You are such a kickache asterisk, your promises are one continuous disappointment. They continued, stop, that's enough. Her sky-blue eyes were covered with silver tears, holding her hands on her head. Wakarimasan, asterisk, you will understand. Their hands began to reach towards Uzumaki. Stop. 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 Jinchuriki abruptly got up from her sleeping bag. Sweat trickled down her delicate tanned skin. Damn it. That dream again. The night sky was surrounded from all four sides, the stars were scattered all over the blue. Light cool air surrounded the young kunoichi, forcing her to finally wake up, for which she, in turn, thanked nature for such care. I'd better go get some air, she said in a whisper, getting up and carefully bypassing the sweetly sleeping comrades. Trying not to wake the team, the blonde quickly left the temporary shelter. She headed towards a small river nearby, which she noticed when she and her friends and sensei were looking for a secluded shelter. Someone from the team member sleepily opened his eyes, getting up from the couch and looking in the direction of the departed Kunoichi. He smiled softly, confirming his guesses. The guy sat up, sleepily rubbing his eyes and following her. Naruko was sitting on a huge stone, which, oddly enough, was similar in size to the size of an adult. The blonde was several tens of meters from the halt, but given her speed, she will be able to get to the place of overnight accommodation in a few minutes. What can I say, she looks no better than the most tired sloth. The disheveled golden hair, big bruises under the eyes and the eternally sleepy face spoke for itself. Well, why is this happening to me? She swore, throwing a stone with all her strength into the blue, like her eyes, channel, which formed a large stream of puddles. Why can't you leave me alone for at least a few days? The azure river stood in the middle, and large trees surrounded it on both sides, which only complemented the already beautiful picture. In one of these very trees sat a half-educated person who listened to swearing for several minutes. He slowly descended from the tree, landing successfully and silently on the grass. One-Eyed cautiously approached his girlfriend. Jinchuriki abruptly turned in the direction of One-Eyed, her eyes reflected the rubble boulder rays. He froze in place, and then, as if nothing had happened, waved one hand, sitting down next to Kunoichi. What are you doing here, Databeo? There was surprise and slight fear in Naruko's eyes. The same question for you. The future member of the ANBU answered, with a question to the question. Oh Genki Daka, bad. What's wrong with you? Speak. None of your business, Kakashi. Uzumaki angrily waved away. Oh, you see what arguments we have. Kakashi rolled his eyes. So you're torturing me, forcing me to talk, and that means you can't? Exactly. The blonde turned away in the other direction, closing her eyes and defiantly crossing her arms over her chest. Naruko, I want to help you too. The ash-haired one tried to look into Jinchuriki's eyes. Nope. So it's decided, Kakashi spread his hands, I won't treat you to ramen. You, Naruko playfully slapped her hand on the boulder on which she was sitting. So I'll buy everything for myself. And anyway, this is a forbidden technique, Databeo. Oh, really? Hataki also turned in the other direction. As you wish. The awkward silence forced on both sides, forcing the lovebirds to look expectantly at each other, and if their glances met, then immediately shyly avert their gaze. Finally, the girl could not stand such pressure and said, I'll tell you. Really? The one-eyed man's eyes flashed, but quickly realizing his unacceptable behavior, he changed the childish joy to the usual skeptical look assigned to him and corrected it. That is, you're seriously going to tell, without cheating? Yes. She nodded uncertainly. Naruko. A sleepy voice was heard somewhere in the subconscious. Don't you think it's too early? Don't you believe him? Jinchuriki raised an eyebrow. Of course I know it's too early, but at least someone will be able to keep it all a secret and help at the right time. I trust him. You know, if he blurts out, it's not my fault. I'm not meddling in your business. Kunoichi thought about it. Taking a deep breath into her lungs, she finally hesitantly deigned to say. I had a dream. Kakashi listened attentively, stroking her delicate wheat hair with red tips at the end. There. Always spring and I walk through a familiar park with the same girl every time. What's wrong with her? The ash-haired one started braiding the girl's pigtails. Did something happen to her? She's. Memories instantly flooded Uzumaki, causing her brain to turn into mush. All the insults and joys, losses and victories, enemies and friends, she remembered everything in small pieces, and with each memory, she became worse and more unbearable. And then, her last memories, which she would prefer to forget once and for all, no longer remembering all that despair and fear. The last, bloodiest battle, Madara against the Shinobi Alliance, and in the end, that damned ten-tailed one. She saw with her own eyes how her closest friends were dying in front of her, every single one of them in this damn war. Kunoichi was burning with a strong desire to rush to them, to help, to save at least one loved one, but everything was in vain. The blue eyes clouded, turning into glass crystal, the eternal smile on her beautiful, delicate face instantly disappeared, showing a devastated look. What happened to her? Why is she being tortured and tortured in this hellish world? Tears flooded her instantly, she opened her mouth and screamed softly. Why is everything happening to me? Kakashi, who was watching her reaction at this time, was too confused by surprise. Naruko? The guy tried to calm her down. Calm down. Suddenly, there are other shinobi villages somewhere in the vicinity? Uzumaki continued to sob at the top of her lungs, not paying attention to the caller. She didn't care about the enemies, they would find her, so what? The ash-haired man gently hugged the blonde, pressing his whole body to himself, and stroking her golden hair soothingly. He laid his head on the head of the sobbing sufferer. "Shoo, it's okay," he spoke in a soothing tone. "I'm nearby." Once in a warm embrace, the blonde snuggled closer, squeezing the assistant's t-shirt with her hand. She asked herself a million questions. Why? For what? What did she do? How can she stop it? How to stop losing loved ones? Questions kept pouring into his head, the answers of which he would obviously never get. Tears streamed from her light blue eyes in rivulets, she couldn't stop. She badly needs a person who will understand her and take care of her, talk heart to soul, but there is hardly such an opportunity, and maybe never. Me. I cannot. The blonde was muttering. I've lost them, I'm broken. Who? The future member of the ANBU cautiously looked at his girlfriend, raising an eyebrow questioningly. You wanted to tell me, people close to me, then. I'll tell you later, the girl continued to mutter an inarticulate thing to herself, simultaneously answering the question. It will be difficult for you to understand. Can you calm down and finally tell me, preferably in detail and without all these babysitters? Hatake looked straight into her eyes seriously, patiently waiting for an answer. No. Annoyed, Kakashi stood up, still holding the crying Naruko in his arms. He silently approached the humming river, without further words, abruptly, quickly and deliberately throwing into the spring. Suddenly finding herself in the cold heat, the girl immediately became animated, like a statue come to life. What are you doing, Dadabayo? She barked hoarsely. I'm trying to reason with you. He answered shortly. Meanwhile, Kurama, laughing hysterically, barely squeezed out. Here. Finally, at least someone calmed you down in a radical way. He began, still giggling, and then continued. I'm tired of listening to you whine every single day. Hush, Fox Furball. You're just missing. Jinchuriki snapped. Hatake was about to go back to rest, but suddenly felt something cold on his back. From such an accident, he jumped up and instantly turned to the hero of the occasion. Do you hear, Uzumaki? The silver-haired one said angrily, gazing straight into the face of the Nedovrag, but in her azure eyes he saw only sparks of excitement and childishness. Now you'll get it from me. One-Eyed instantly jumped into the spring, standing in front of the opponent, and masterfully dodging another jet of cold puddle. the guy also began to spray his girlfriend with icy liquid. "Well, of course you're mean, Dadabayo." Smiling in all 32 teeth, the blonde exclaimed. "I didn't think that you would respond so easily to my challenge. Do you think I'm a coward?" Kakashi smiled with one eye. "Well, you could say that," she retorted. For a few fun and unforgettable minutes, the friends were soaked from head to toe, but none of them were going to rush to the halt that Minato arranged. "Well." Hatake hesitated, and then hesitantly continued. "So you're going to tell me?" Jinchuriki froze for a minute, neither alive nor dead, and then woke up, as if the ash-haired one had just looked not at a person, but at a sculpture that came to life in the most unusual way. "Okay." She breathed out resignedly. The eyes of the future member of the ANBU shone, anticipating that the first few minutes he would immerse himself in the blonde's story. "I have a nightmare almost every day." The interlocutor began, but did not dare to tell further. And, the one-eyed man asked impatiently. "I thought you said that, but he's some kind of girl." "I see a pink-haired girl," she continued, deliberately hiding the fact that they are friends, because then Kakashi will not leave behind with questions, and she does not need it in any way to, then some kind of black liquid flows from her eyes, and so every time. "Is that all?" Hatake snorted in disappointment. He expected more and more intriguing. "It's too early for you to know everything," she said mysteriously. A gentle smile instantly appeared on her face. Kakashi froze for a minute, looking closely at Uzumaki's smile for the 100th time. Is this smile meant only for me? Unexpectedly for himself, the guy suggested. His gray soul became suspiciously warm. "No." What are Hatake's thoughts? "I like your smile." He repeats this phrase over and over again. "How much, do not protect. And you to me." Naruko replied, the soft blush on her face instantly burst open. "I think it's time to go back, after all, we still have to go tomorrow." Kakashi only nodded briefly. Naruko stood up, beckoning Smoky with her hand. He followed her without a word. Nothing much happened the next morning. Minato woke up his students as usual. Of the remaining three, Rin was the first to wake up. Surprisingly, Namikaze, Naruko woke up the second, and after all, this stubborn Kunoichi always woke up from under the Teshka only in the evening. Hatake lay down a little more, but later, like the whole team, he already gathered the strength to leave this temporary halt. "We act as before," Konoha's yellow lightning ordered. "Hi!" the imitators chorused. "Come on." Minato's team walked briskly through the rocky terrain. They were surrounded by picturesque landscapes. They were on a mountain path, and when they looked down, their gaze met the forest thicket. Migratory birds circled over the mountains in flocks. It was chilly. The north wind was blowing, bringing cold to the valley. Naruko and Rin were trembling slightly. Kakashi also had a hard time coping with the brutal cold, but looking at the female part of team number 7, he thought that he should not have time for such small weaknesses. Instead, he took out a light jacket from a hiking backpack, and threw it over the shoulders of a fair-haired girl. Rin blushed brightly and murmured her thanks in a low voice. Then Kakashi approached Naruko, and to everyone's amazement, he put his arm around Kunoichi's shoulders, trying to work out joint warmth and keep warm. Naruko looked at Kakashi in embarrassment, but did not pull away. She relaxed and let the guy lead her freely along the winding path. In Kakashi, bewilderment, rage and childish delight struggled. The latter was the most. The only Hatake was perplexed because of his own feelings. Why did he have to hug Naruko? And why did she, Naruko, not break his damn arm, but even snuggled closer? And why did he like it so much? Rage. At himself. He scolded himself for not being able to control his own body and sudden desires. For doing this at all. And if Naru gets hurt somewhere, and even worse, he will die. He gets attached to her, and if something happens, it will definitely finish him off. He will not survive the loss of his closest friend either. Delight. From her actions. From how wonderful it is to hold her in a figurative embrace. It depends on how warm her body becomes. From how beautifully her round cheeks flushed scarlet when he, obeying a sudden impulse, hugged her. Rejection and bewilderment quickly evaporated, and they were quickly replaced by insight. He likes Naruko. Like a girl. The shock of understanding did not leave him until they arrived at a small village where they stopped for the night. The girls hurried to the closed springs, too tired from today's hike. Kakashi was also called. The ash-haired one didn't go. He remained sitting in the room, still pondering the unexpected conclusion. The girls shrugged and ran away. I managed to fall in love. And even now. And even in this Baku and a bunch of secrets and a card of problems. I'm a fucking genius. Panic was slowly flooding the boy's mind. He found this feeling strange, even frightening. Being an absolute beginner, he tried to understand all his unexpected whims, incomprehensibly turning all the shortcomings into virtues, and good qualities into bad ones. I constantly pull her, touch her, make her mad. Of course, because I'm nervous. And how not to be nervous when she scares me so much with her strange, inexplicable behavior. A boy was running around the room, ruffling his hair and breathing fast. Am I sarcastic to her, joking not too well, irritating her? Well, trying to get her out of the amoeba state, so to speak. What's the other way? But no way, no way. And if she is annoyed by just being around me? Then what then? Well, she really never showed it. Well, we are shinobi who know how to hide our emotions. Damn it, what if, taking more air into his lungs, the guy started up again and again, breathing convulsively, running around the room, grabbing and throwing things that came to hand, not caring about their condition. His tantrum would have lasted a long time if there hadn't been a knock on the door. Minato Namikaze was in a very good mood. Always, when his intuition is silent and does not show signs of life, everything is calm and relatively quiet. This day is no exception. He and his team reached the hotel in record time, where they could have a snack, spend the night and exhale with a calm soul. Hokage spoke suspiciously about this mission, and for some reason mentioned Biju. This did not evoke the most beautiful thoughts, but it was absolutely impossible to get discouraged and transmit this decadent mood to the students. Especially when some kind of chemistry was planned between the two most problematic and harmful of his guys. This pleased the eye and made them feel at least a little, but cheered up before the problems coming at their heels. He hoped that Naruko, incredibly similar to a special cross between himself and Kushina, and who became like his own daughter to him, and Kakashi, to whom the man as best he could, with all diligence replaced the father who committed suicide, would be able to build more than this incomprehensible friendship between them. At least it's clear that they both want it. The rumble in Kakashi's room distracted the man from his thoughts. Well, the problems have arrived. Finita, la comedy. Flashed through the blond man's head as he hurried into the room to the ash-haired one. Minato expected to see anything. Though the attack of Biju, though all the swordsmen of the mist at once, though the resurrected Madara, but not that one of the most restrained shinobi Konoha rushes around the room like a squirrel in a wheel, and dumps all things. Noticing the teacher who came, Kakashi stopped turning the room into a dump and asked, "Did something happen, sensei?" "We have nothing, but you apparently have serious problems, Kakashi." "Well, tell me, what happened?" "I don't understand what you mean, Minato, sensei. What happened and what to tell?" Kakashi turned on the fool professionally, pretending not to notice the pogrom and his own shaking fingers. Kakashi, stop pretending to be blind, deaf and stupid, Minato said sternly, but immediately softened his tone. We both know that you are not. I have a rough idea of what's wrong with you, but I can only help you if you want to. Kakashi froze, not daring to answer. On the one hand, asking for help is not a concern for the great shinobi, but on the other, he needs to at least sort out his head. Minato, sensei, how did you know that you love Kushina-san? Kakashi asked timidly, wringing his hands, and obviously nervous. Well, that's it. It started, Minato thought, starting to feel nostalgic. Kushina and I have known each other since childhood. At first we didn't like each other, but then we became friends, and I started courting her. She has become the closest person to me that I am afraid of losing. It's only getting worse. He and Naru have exactly the same situation. But had she experienced such an attraction herself? Minato, feeling Kakashi's confusion, soothingly put his hand on his shoulder, did not squeeze hard, in an attempt to bring the guy to his senses, and said in an even voice, Kakashi, I understand how you feel about Naru. Moreover, I support you in every way in your feelings. But I also understand how confused you are now, having not known parental affection and experiencing love for the first time. But you can't order your heart, so try to accept your feelings, or even better, admit them to Naruko. It will be better for all of us. Besides, it's not worth giving Rin false hope for reciprocity, which, as we both know, will never happen. Rin. This girl has always supported me, always been there for me. I can't just break her heart like that. Kakashi replied to his teacher, instantly turning red. With whom, and with Noera he could not do this. My conscience would torture me like this for the rest of my life. Maybe, but you didn't think about the fact that your indifference can break the heart of Naru herself. Minato said in a measured tone. Damn. He didn't want to break Naruko's heart. Damn didn't want to hurt this man. But the teacher, right here, at this moment, put him in front of a choice. Before choosing between Naruko and Rin, in favor of the first, he had to. They didn't leave him a good choice for everyone. I'm sorry, Rin, after this mission, I think I'll invite Naruko to eat somewhere. Minato nodded, understanding who he had chosen. And to a slight indignation, deep down, as if his own little man had just been married, and he took and agreed, the future Hokage ignored. What does it matter to him if his students might start dating? Or is there still a case? Minato's team fought off a variety of weapons, simultaneously trying to intercept a scroll with secret information necessary to complete the mission. Minato had taken over most of the enemies, and now the trio of friends were trying with all their might to detain the latter. Naruko's clones, led by their original, repeatedly disabled opponents, periodically creating Rasengans. Rin has disappeared somewhere. The guys would have been worried about this if not for such a tense situation. Kakashi was creating his Chidori, preparing to hit his opponent with it. A bird trill sounded. The guy ran away, ready to deliver a deadly blow, but when he looked up, he realized that he would have to hit his girlfriend. Rin was standing in front of him, her face was distorted in fright, horror, but there was nothing she could do. Naruko, seeing this picture, rushed to her friend, trying to push her away from the trajectory of Kakashi's blow. Why are you doing this, Rin, you stupid girl? Naruko shouted in a terrible voice. Suddenly, a shadow flashed between the guys. And Obito appeared before his friends. All crumpled, in rags, but alive and practically healthy. Except for the completely white part of the body. Madara saved him. A thought flashed through Naru's mind. I'll save Rin. No matter what it costs me. Obito growled, jumping up between his beloved and his friend. Chidori passed through the place where the heart should have been. Kakashi's fist punched a hole in the guy. Kakashi screamed, became hysterical, sobbed, howling and swaying from side to side. Obito fell to the ground. Nara jumped up to the guy, ignoring Kakashi's tears, who hugged the girl behind her back and begged to save Obito. Rin was looking somewhere through Uchiha, starting to realize what she had done. Obito wheezed, coughed, and opened his eyes. "Thank you, Kurama," Uzumaki thanked her friend, seeing on her hands a scarlet, regenerative chakra that belonged to Kubi. Kakashi saw that Obito was conscious, and began to quietly ask for forgiveness. The hysteria subsided. Now the guy was sitting, buried in the neck of his best friend, and quietly snoring. After a tantrum, it's always better and sleeps better. Naru explained, responding to Rin's questioning look. She chuckled and turned away, staring blankly at the sunset, overflowing with scarlet colors. There was a smell of medicines and bleach in the hospital. Obito was lying on a bed in the ward, all riddled with medications. A drip was working steadily near him. Regular breathing and devices testified that the guy was alive. Visitors have already gathered near it. Minato's team, Kushina and Obito's grandmother were sitting next to the guy. Rin held his hand, not moving a step away. Everyone was silent, and even Naruko did not dare to break the oppressive silence. Minato had already scolded Rin for trying to commit suicide, and then she and Kushina burst into tears, hugging and apologizing to the girl. Kakashi never let go of Naruko's hand, continued to hold it in his. He was still clinging to Naruto, like a kitten to its mother's side, and was hiding from prying eyes. Suddenly Obito stirred. He must have had a bad dream. The guy began to pull long. Kakashi looked at his friend, shuddered, and turned away, hiding behind the girl again. Naruko immediately began stroking his shoulders, whispering soothing words along the way. The guy's shoulders stopped shaking. Rin looked at Kakashi, then at Obito, and her gaze went into the void. "I was thinking." Naruko was quietly glad that it was over. Madara will die, Akatsuki won't have an underground leader, they won't be able to revive him without Obito/Tobi. Naruko sighed heavily and, stroking the back of Kakashi hugging her, turned away to the window. It was incredibly beautiful today and the heart is incredibly light. Rin, Minato and Kushina are gone. Grandma Obito went to the doctors, wiping away the tears that were still flowing. Naruko and Kakashi stayed near the hospital bed. Kakashi was thinking. But not about a friend anymore. Emotions are out. And others came to replace it. He thought that now was not the best time for confessions, but he decided. Naru, He froze. Naruko turned to him a questioning look. "What's wrong, Kakashi?" The girl asked. "Me. I wanted to confess. I love you." The blue eyes opened wide. Kurama inside the girl covered his eyes, finally got to this jerk. I already thought that he would understand at the pre-retirement age, not before. He thought, going to take a nap until the pink snot is over. Kakashi was starting to panic again. Why is Nara not responding? Is she uncomfortable? Damn. What has he done? And Naru is just in a stupor. And in shock. She looks around in incomprehension, trying to find signs that this is not her Kakashi. Not finding any, the girl happily hugged the guy by the neck and snuggled closer. Who would have thought that our relationship with Sensei in this world would be like this? Naruko said happily to Kurama, feeling Kakashi's hands on her waist, and the way he timidly buries his nose hidden under the mask in her hair. "I am," replied the nine-tailed one. Uzumaki was about to start swearing at the fox, when she heard Kakashi's voice. "I like your smile too much not to fall in love with it." Kurama smiled. He knew a lot, and what would happen next, but decided to just give the people a chance to enjoy the moment. Especially if they deserve it. Ninetails was furious. He waved his huge tails, sweeping everything around. The birth of the mother. She's been born right now. Too presumptuous. And stupid. Naruto jumped on the nose of the frenzied-tailed one, ignoring the screams of Kushina and Minato. She has to make it. Step. Second. Third. The technique is dispelled. Kurama, released from prison, consciously examined the battlefield. I paid attention to Naru. I wanted to kill the girl already, but I fell under the influence of another technique. The return of memories. Her Kurama tried to share his own. Now there are 2 of her chickens here. Ironic. Naruto, what's wrong with you? Asked a foreign Kyuubi who had looked through the memories and knew the situation. I was born. My body is otherworldly, it shouldn't be. Naruko was born from this time. And I'm dissolving. The skin particles flew off, exfoliated from the girl. But she wasn't crying. Kakashi was crying. He was crying because he knew she wouldn't come back. Sorry, Kakashi. I didn't have time to tell you. The girl's hissing reached the ear. And it shattered into millions of particles, leaving behind dust and a lot of people crying from almost physical pain and grief. Naruko jumped up with a cry. She was still seeing the creepy scarlet eyes of the distraught Kurama. Panic was overwhelming. Naruko suddenly realized that she was breathing. Still breathing. Even though a second ago it was blown into billions of molecules. Naruko quietly stirred, sat up and opened her eyes a little. She was lying in an unfamiliar room. No, more precisely a friend, but she knew her from a slightly different angle. It was the room she would have lived in if not for the death of her parents. One of the rooms of the Namikaze family house. She remembered it as dark, dusty, uncomfortable, empty. Now her bedroom has changed, transformed. The wallpaper was pasted, and there was a cute orange rug on the floor. The desk was strewn with stationery, books. On the bed in orange bed linen, sat a large stuffed toy in the form of a fox. True, with 9 tails. The girl herself was lying on the bed, tangled in a blanket. Naruko, like a worm, tried to crawl out of bed and unwind, but shamefully flopped. The door opened. A slightly angry Naru saw. Minato? Her father looked into the room. He was wearing a blue house suit. When he saw his child in this position, the man laughed. Good morning, Sonia. I would make fun of you, Naru-chan, but I'm afraid you won't forgive me. Can I help you get out, daughter? He asked. Naruko was very confused. Why is she here with Minato? How does he know what's on his daughter? Stop, 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 she died before him at all at that time, from where she now inexplicably came out. How did it happen that they are together? He didn't die right after her, did he? Minato, meanwhile, without waiting for the answer of the stalled daughter, began to unfold it. When the girl was free, Minato said softly, well, now that our little mission to free you from the sleeping cocoon has been solved, you and I, my little butterfly, are walking to Mom, to eat. He is so affectionate with me, and treats me like a little princess. Naruko thought with tenderness, getting up and going after her father. There was an incredibly delicious smell of breakfast and coffee in the kitchen. But it wasn't the breakfast that caught Naruko's attention, but the woman who cooked it. Kushina was standing on the other side of the table. Her scarlet hair was tied up in a high ponytail, and a yellow apron was tied around her waist. Kushina was humming merrily to herself when they entered. Noticing her husband and daughter, the woman greeted them. Naruko wanted to scream, cry, laugh, hug her parents who knew her as their child. Fortunately, the girl understood that such behavior would be extremely strange, so she connected all the wonders of shinobi endurance so as not to do stupid things and not cause unnecessary suspicion. She greeted her mother and sat down to breakfast, not taking her eyes off her living parents, subconsciously afraid that they would turn out to be a mirage and dissolve, leaving behind a frightening emptiness and ringing silence. Kushina collected Minato for work, wailing and swearing at her husband's carelessness. Minato was chuckling. Naruko was smiling softly from the whole picture. Minato finished his meal and sped off on a Cape Kage. Kushina fell silent and looked at her daughter, who had fallen silent. But as they say, quiet Uzumaki, like the calm before the storm. Mom suddenly smiled and, slightly crouching down, took small steps towards her daughter. It looked as if the woman wanted to confide in her. Sitting opposite the girl, slightly surprised by her mother's childish behavior, Kushina said with a sly smile on her face, "Well, tell me. I'm your mother after all, so I have the right to know how you are there, but what are you talking about, Mom?" Naruko asked in disbelief. "Yes, about you and Kakashi. Of course I understand the age difference, he is a teacher and she is a student, but still. You're an adult girl, beautiful, prominent, no wonder he looks at you like that. I have already talked to Minato about this, he got mad, said that he would not give his little naive princess daughter to anyone. Even Kakashi, and you know how loyal he is to his students. Obito and Rin are of the same opinion as me, because you are perfect for each other." Mother blurted out, "Kakashi. Obito. Rin. They're alive. Wait, is something going on with me and Kakashi? Wait a minute, what makes you decide, well, how?" Mom was fidgeting impatiently on the spot. "Have you ever seen how he looks at you?" "No. And I saw it. You, my dear, are already 17, and after the end of your wanderings with that pervert, he can't take his eyes off you. And this is already a year and a half, by the way. And the way he looks at you, oh. With tenderness, with trepidation, with love. It's just a pity that he still hasn't confessed, otherwise a good couple would have turned out." Something crunched from behind. The gossips turned around. Minato was standing in the doorway. The man's hand gripped the handle with such force that it cracked and crumbled in the reddened palm. The father looked scarier than all 9 Biju at once, with his eyes blazing with rage and a murderous aura that made everyone sick at a distance of at least 100 meters. "What are you saying, Kushina?" Minato drawled in a dangerous voice, not taking his eyes off his wife and quietly raking the completely confused Nara into his arms. "I think I explained quite clearly last time that my daughter is too young and innocent for Hatake. Think about your age. She needs to run around with the young now, while there is time, and she is with an adult man to wander. Ran away. And if Kakashi offends her? Deceive? You do understand that my father's heart can't stand it? My little princess, I won't let anyone hurt you." Minato said loudly and crawled to the side, picked up his daughter in his arms and began to cradle her. Naruko did not resist, once again being touched by her father's attitude towards her. Kushina was puffing with anger. Minato refused to leave for work under the pretext of, "And if you send her now with Kakashi to hang out or with someone else somewhere?" Which struck Naruko to the core. His father's paranoia was surprising in its scale. Is he really so worried about his child? What about Neru? And Neru is sitting, reading scrolls, swearing with Kurama, and her father is by her side, entertaining her. As if there was no time travel. A quiet family idyll was interrupted by the doorbell. Kushina, armed with a ladle just in case of fire, went to open it, deciding not to pull her daughter and her husband, who had arranged an unscheduled vacation. The picture that opened her eyes made her completely confident in her thoughts. Kakashi was standing on the threshold. It seems nothing surprising, because Minato's students were frequent and welcome guests in this house. Kushina found the neatness of the man unusual. The woman has been sure all her life that there is not a single comb in Jonen's house, and that he does not know about the barber shop in Konoha. Now Kakashi pleasantly surprised her. His ash-blonde hair was combed, and although it still defied gravity and all the laws of physics, it did not have those lumpy lumps of hair with which the former Kunoichi was used to seeing him. But that wasn't what struck the woman so much. Flowers were clutched in Hatake Kakashi's fist. Wildflowers. It's no secret that Naruko doesn't like the pompous luxury produced by roses. She prefers flowers growing in the field. A lush bouquet of daisies, cornflowers and bluebells was a wonderful addition to the image of Jonen, who even changed into a light yukata, and not his usual Jonen vest. The man hesitated on the threshold of the house, clearly not knowing what to say. He blushed charmingly, clutching the bouquet to the left side of his chest while Kushina was recovering, simultaneously thinking up what he would say to the obviously angry teacher, the woman herself and Naruko, for whom he had come. He was thinking only now, under what pretext he would call Nara for a walk. Until now, he had been too inspired by his own feelings to think about anything other than the beauty and kindness of Sensei's daughter. He likes her smile too much to be distracted by anything other than her. But it would be worth it. After all, his dear teacher has revealed his face right now. Minato was as angry as ever. The topic of Kakashi and Naruchan's relationship was just closed, and Kushina already meets a copying ninja on the threshold. He hid Nara in a room so that she wouldn't want to run away with his student. Firing lightning bolts and mentally kicking Kakashi into a flatbread with a Rasengan, Minato asked, "I take it you were just passing by, Kakashi? And did you bring me flowers?" "I'm sorry, Kakashi, I have a beloved wife. You go for a walk." And tried to slam the door in the man's face. The copyist wasn't going to give up. He had been hatching a plan for a walk for a whole week, nurtured and cherished every moment in his imagination, thought through everything he could, and Minato would not stop him. Intercepting the door, he squeezed into the house, but remained standing on the threshold, so as not to provoke the teacher even more. The hope that everything would go well and he wouldn't have to kidnap Naruko from under Sensei and Kushina's noses was rapidly melting like snow in the sun. Finally enraged by everyone, Minato squeezed out a smile that looked more like a brutal grin. Teeth could be heard rubbing against each other. Kushina sighed heavily, thinking that Minato was protecting her daughter too jealously, simply refusing to accept that their playful princess had grown up, and if she wanted, they had no right to refuse to hand her over to some prince. Even if it turns out to be the person they least expected it from. The woman smiled, pushing her husband into another room, fearing for the safety of the jaws of both men. Minato had already ground his teeth to powder, but something told the woman that he did not care deeply about his condition and really wanted to prescribe his pupil by the hidden mask of the physiognomy. And no one would want a fight here. "Well, except for Minato himself, I came for Naruko, Kushina-san, Minato-sensei." Kakashi began calmly, "Let me see her, please." He asked as politely as possible. "Naruko is resting. I don't want to wake my daughter, so if you wanted to take her for a walk, do it next time." Like an excited snake, the head of the family hissed. Of course he was lying. Naruko cooed in her room, confused by the sharply changed mood of her father, who felt Kakashi's chakra. "But Minato-sensei, if my memory serves me right, Naruko gets up at 7 in the morning for training every day." Tried to dampen Sensei Hataki's ardor, quietly backing away towards the stairs. The hand clutching the flowers was already pretty wet, as was its owner. He was worried. "It's late now, and she's gone to bed. And you are extremely out of time, Kakashi. Continued his mission to expel Hatake from his Namikaze house. But it's morning, what's going on with you? And by the end of the comedy, the reason for all this fuss jumped to the arguing men and woman. Naruko herself, Neru, was angry that everyone left her. Voices were coming from the living room. It was her parents and someone else, a vaguely familiar pleasant baritone. Naruko flew down the stairs, driven by curiosity. The picture before her eyes made her freeze on the stairs and never overcome her way to the first floor. Kakashi and Dad, grappling with each other, pulled each other's clothes. It was coming to a fight. Kushina, milling around the men in an attempt to prevent a scandal from breaking out, noticed her surprised daughter. "Oh, Neru, you're finally coming back to us. And they came for you here." The woman shouted to her, slyly shooting her eyes, as if indicating, "What did I say?" and switching the attention of the male part of their motley company to her. In which she excelled brilliantly. Minato felt like an electric shock. He let go of the student, shook himself, and with all his appearance expressing friendliness, smiled the most honest and sincere smile. Kakashi shifted his gaze to the girl and froze. In reality, she looked even better than in fantasy. He missed her like hell, even though he hadn't seen her for only a week, and with all his expression expressing happiness, he rushed up the stairs. In silence, handing over the flowers, Kakashi hesitated. Naruko turned scarlet like a briar, and Hatake did not dare to call her for a walk, in fear of rejection. "Neru, in general, we have a new restaurant opened in Konoha. And the weather is good today. How about taking a walk, going there with me?" "Damn it. Heck. I've been thinking for so long how I'm going to call her, and in the end, it's all down the drain." "That's a great idea, Kakashi. Give me 5 minutes, I'll get ready." Naruko answered in a slow voice and in an instant rushed to the closet in her room. She had no idea if she had dresses, because in her previous life her main outfit was an orange jumpsuit suit, and the official outfit was the only kimono that Granny Tsunade forced her to buy. She was lucky. A dark blue sleeveless dress that reached to the knee, painted with flowers in light folds. After putting it on and putting on a blue hairpin in the form of a cluster of flowers, exactly the same as on the dress, Naruko went out to Kakashi. Less than 2 minutes have passed. Minato, who had mentally done everything that is usually done in a torture chamber, with Kakashi, looked at his daughter with childish delight. Kushina was ready to cry with admiration and joy. And Kakashi is close to fainting. The beauty of the beloved enchanted, pulled into the pool of feelings, into the very depths. "Well, I'm ready, let's go?" "Yes, it's time." Kakashi understood that he was behaving like a break, but there was nothing he could do. Especially when Neru took him by the elbow and led him to the exit. Couldn't resist. Gently pecked the girl on the cheek. Naruko froze, gradually realizing what had happened. She started to smile. "I like your smile too much, and I will try to give you more reasons for it," the man said softly and opened the door for Naruko in a gentlemanly manner. And somewhere nearby, a notorious ninja named Minato was raging, remembering the last words of his student. And somewhere in the depths of the subconscious, one notorious Biju, a nine-tailed demon fox, was neighing like a horse, and rejoiced that at least in this life his beloved Jinchuriki would know all the delights of human happiness. 2 years after the events described, Naruko was nervous. Kurama too. Kushina panicked, not so much for the news as for her husband's reaction to it. Neru stroked her mother's back soothingly. Calmed the former Jinchuriki and the fox. It might have helped if Neru and Kushina hadn't felt nervous in the QB base. During his stay in this time, he managed to learn Minato's character when it comes to his daughter. Minato himself was dripping valerian into his glass. The smell of sake * was in the air. The women looked at the blond man disapprovingly. Both of them were extremely categorical about alcohol, but they did not make any comments. The situation was too tense, since even the nine-tailed was nervous. Kushina is happy. Her daughter grew up, her beau turned out to be someone she knows more than her own child. Kakashi and Naruko have been in a relationship for 2 years. Of course, this is a small figure, but the woman believed in Hatake and in his sincerity. She saw their relationship, knew what such views lead to. It had to happen sooner or later. Bringing her husband to her senses, Kushina plunged into the process of choosing a kimono for such a case. And on account of how much money they will spend on the celebration, and it will be large-scale, and how many invitations will have to be sent. The guests will be not only from Konoha. Minato is close to fainting. A cold towel on his forehead, active fanning of his carcass with a newspaper did not help. A bottle of sake, once hidden by him in anticipation of his own finest hour, was used. It has come. Alcohol slightly diluted the nervousness that had risen like a stone in the throat, and slightly relaxed, but not so much that the man let everything down on the brakes. He was still overcome by the desire to kill Hatake Kakashi, but not as strong as it was in the beginning. Naruko stared at her father, waiting for his words. The girl was of the same opinion as her mother. Minato would not accept that she was not small. Her father protected her too diligently, and if this kind of thing touched her before, now it was slightly comforting. But the approval of parents is a very important part, and if the mother in this situation played the role of a procuress, then the father tried to rehearse the separation. When Naruko first moved here, she didn't even think that such an event could happen to her. She's getting married. For the copying ninja, Hatake Kakashi. For your own teacher, a relationship with a man 13 years older than herself excited not only the villagers of List, but also other countries. A famous bachelor and the daughter of the ruler of the strongest of the villages became a sensation. Gradually, everything calmed down. Naruko and Kakashi's friends reacted well to this news. Kurenai was glad. Asuma thought how long it would take. Sasuke and Sakura had long suspected something like this, so they could only congratulate the newly made couple. Guy, on the one hand, was terribly happy, but on the other he burst into tears, lamenting that his eternal rival had overtaken him, the green beast of Konoha, on the personal front, but sincerely congratulated the couple. Kiba, who liked Naru since the academy, was upset. Shikamaru and Choji smiled as they listened to Ino's lamentations because she was the last to hear the news again. But it was not without threats. Threats to Kakashi's life, from the Cenobites. They found out about it upon arrival in Konoha for negotiations. Gaara was glad for his bosom friend, but, quietly calling Kakashi aside, he warned the man in a dangerous form that if at least one complaint was received from Naruko in his direction, he would not be petty and would unleash on him not only his sand, but also the anger of his Biju. And he will fix it with his fists from above. Kakashi assured him that if he did something bad to Naru, he would come to Sunu on his own and demand Kazekage to strangle him. Such a reaction from Minato is more expected. It's no secret how much he loves his child. The man believed that his beloved child was very small and silly, so he felt it his duty to talk to Naru. And not only about the fact that Kakashi is an adult man, but also about the grandchildren that Minato planned for himself. There was also an educational conversation with Hatake himself. Minato was talking about the importance of the relationship moment in his daughter's life, about the importance of Kakashi in the Namikaze family. Just like Gare, Kakashi promised Minato not to offend Naruko, but if this happens, even by chance, prepare the neck for the guillotine in advance. Namikaze still trusted his student, and after this statement calmed down and gave his father's good. Naruko, who showed an interest in cooking, was cooking dinner. She and Kakashi, who was on a mission, had been cohabiting for a year and a half. Not such a long time. Hatake was supposed to be back in a couple of days, not earlier. Neru was happily swinging her legs, slicing eggplants, and mentally laughing with Kurama from his next joke. She had long since stopped taking the fox's malice to heart, finally getting used to it and feeling that it was not a mockery, but just a kind giggle at her. The fox fell silent, and laughing, disappeared into the depths of the subconscious. Naruko tensed. The fox's gratuitous laughter didn't mean anything good. Something unexpected will definitely happen. Surprise. The effect of surprise. Whoever you are, your only advantage over me is lost. Naruko spun on her heels, and, putting a knife in front of her, prepared to defend herself. And I was confused. Kakashi was standing in front of her. A man on tiptoes was sneaking towards her. Caught red-handed, Hatake froze and raised his hands in a conciliatory manner, surrendering. Oh, take it easy. I was just kidding. He chuckled, looking askance at the knife. You scared me, Kakashi. Neru exclaimed, putting away her cold weapon and opening her arms for hugs. I wanted to appear unexpectedly, and extremely effectively. In a fit of childishness, the man hugged the girl and circled around the kitchen. Not having a lot of space, he just fell on the sofa, dragging the laughing girl with him. You came back earlier than planned. What is the reason? Neru mumbled into the dogman's chest. I realized something. And he hurried to his native house, to carry out his idea. And what if it's not a secret? Slyly shooting eyes, the girl asked. A secret, honey. So far, it's a secret. Laughing from the surprised, slightly angry face of his beloved, the man reluctantly crawled out of the embrace and asked, Naruko, how about taking a walk tonight? Oh, sure, come on. Because of your dislike of walking, we rarely go out together. The still offended girl said harmfully. Well, don't get excited. I told you it's a secret for now, you'll find out soon enough, Neru. Kakashi smiled. He often smiled with her. He was happy with her. One smile of his girlfriend made him feel boundless happiness himself. It has always been so. Naruko decided to dress up after all. She and Kakashi really rarely went out for a walk, mainly because of Jonan's dislike of noise, the public and the crowd. She had a pair of kimonos, dresses and a yukata. Looking at Kakashi, who even took off his Jonan vest and tried to wrap himself in the dark fabrics of his only kimono, the girl decided the same thing. The choice fell on a long black kimono to the floor, with a narrow skirt, wide sleeves and a white belt at the waist. The floors of the kimono were decorated with flowers and cranes. Summoning 2 clones and somehow putting on a large number of fabrics, Naruko gathered the falling waterfall hair into a bun with the help of Kanzashi Star. The girl twirled in front of the mirror. A short blonde in beautiful clothes, with her hair gathered and Zori asterisk on her feet opposite, smiled contentedly. She looked great. The fox, finally condescending to pop up in her head, chuckled, thereby confirming her thoughts. Neru padded out of the room and joined the stunned Kakashi. A man in general very often admired her appearance. And it doesn't matter whether Neru was going somewhere, whether she was preparing, or just woke up and didn't even wash her face, the girl always received compliments from him, but Kakashi didn't stay away either. A long dark kimono to his ankles with a thin white belt. On the shoulders was a black haori asterisk with wide sleeves, white collars and a dragon on the back. On his feet were the usual wooden get-a star. Kakashi is delighted. Kakashi is ecstatic. Kakashi wanted to admire his girlfriend longer. Magnificent. Remembering why he invited her, Kakashi smiled slyly. She will definitely agree. She will give him what he once lost. Together they will do what Kakashi destroyed almost all of his adult life. And he will make her the happiest woman in the world. Naruko smiled sheepishly, because Kakashi's look clearly indicated that he was thinking about her appearance. Kurama hastened to notice the beauty of his Jinchuriki, and sarcastically noticed the eloquent glances that the copyist cast at her from under lowered eyelashes. Naruko shushed the fox, and he fell silent, getting ready to watch a show called Attempts of Copying Ninja Kakashi to make a beautiful marriage proposal to his girlfriend. Naruko tried not to blush. Naruko and Kakashi strolled along the alley. Evening was coming, and some kind of event was planned. The trees were decorated with ribbons and paper lanterns in the shape of hearts. Shops, cafes and restaurants were decorated with ikabanas asterisk and sakura flowers. The favorite place of both shinobi was a secluded park. There were practically no people in it at the usual time of the day, and even more so during the holidays. Most preferred restaurants, cafes, bars and other crowded places. But formally, the park was considered one of the places for entertainment and recreation, so it was decorated anyway. Right now, sakura branches were forming into a heart coming straight out of the ground. The sidewalk was strewn with her own petals, burning in the light of night lanterns shining with scarlet light. Naruko was laughing with Kakashi, extremely embarrassed by the whole situation. The situation clearly demanded from him conformity, romance, which he, being extremely embarrassed and, in principle, an extremely serious person, could not give properly. Kakashi really has never been a romantic. He was strong, brave, lazy, eternally calm and unbreakable. He was always ready to lend a strong shoulder in case of failures. He was always ready to help. But even the books of Ero-Sanin did not improve his understanding of romance. Naruko understood this, despite her stubbornness, which eventually dissolved, and did not require much. Kakashi didn't know how to talk about anything. His speech was always concise, clear and always on the topic. It's not that he didn't like to start distant topics for conversation. He couldn't. Support in any conversation, yes, please, easily. But inventing conversations about nothing and trying to build a dialogue in such an environment does not work for everyone, and even more so for a shinobi who is not generous with words. Naruko, still offended that Kakashi hid something from her, even though he assured her that it was temporary and she would soon find out everything, did not even try to defuse the situation. On the contrary, the girl, by her silence and gaze alone, forced her as much as she could. The weather is good today, isn't it, Naruko? Hatake spoke hesitantly somehow, expressing such confusion with one look, which Naru had never seen in him. She understood that he was lost in the oppressive, pressing atmosphere on his shoulders, but she did not plan to dispel it with a wave of her palm. You're right, it's especially warm days today. Most likely, the last ones this month. Naru answered in a deliberately bored tone, stretching the phrase, while Kurama, who understood what kind of little devil he had raised, giggled in his subconscious, enjoying the sight of a slightly drooping copyist, partially correctly reading the atmosphere. And the moon is very beautiful today, asterisk, no longer hoping for anything, Kakashi says quietly, looking up at the night luminary, so beautiful that you can die. Naruko says with a smile. The man froze. He had heard these words from Naru more than once, and even though they were now encrypted into an ordinary, one might say, phrase, this did not cancel its meaning. Kakashi's frantic heartbeat and another surge of tenderness towards the younger Namikaze. Kakashi was a complex character, but that didn't take away his other fine qualities. Hatake was economical and sometimes overprotective. Even too much. Naruko knew perfectly well that he was not a household invalid, so she felt calm on missions and was not nervous about having a hot dinner and a clean bed with her young man. How's the young one? Externally. Kakashi also became hyperactive when Naru returned. Not in moderation. If it were not for the harmfulness of Naruko, then for the first 2 days after serious missions, she moved around the house exclusively on Kakashi's hands, because she constantly overexerts herself and does not care about her own health, and would not eat with chopsticks in her own hands, but with the help of Kakashi, since she constantly throws weapons on a mission and this naturally leads to their severe fatigue. Therefore, she should let him take care of her. Kakashi has never been tactile. But still, the desire to touch overcame the dislike of touching, no matter how absurd it may sound. Touching leads to intimacy, proximity to attachment, and attachment, as he has already seen from his personal experience, to the death or suffering of loved ones. Therefore, Naruko had to wait a long time for Jonin to overcome his fear of loss, reducing paranoia to a minimum, so that later the copyist would not be so afraid for her when she was not in his field of vision. Naruko had to show Kakashi for a long time that she was a strong kunoichi, and that Kakashi could stop twitching whenever the phrase sounded in front of the Hokage, "We have bad news, Hokage-sama." The suicide of his father, the period of confidence in the death of Obito and almost the murder of Rin were imprinted in Kakashi's head and caused him horror, so the animal fear of loss would never let him go. Naruko understood this. Speaking of Obito and Rin. First of all, they are married. They got married before Naruko became a genin at that time, and the girl was sincerely happy for them. Secondly, the memories of the Naruko who was in Minato's team were completely erased from their memory. And when asked how Obito, Rin and the Namikaze family with their newborn daughter escaped, they answered, somehow by itself, they did not remember her and were sure that their Lady Fate and Mademoiselle Luck had saved them. Perhaps it's for the best. Suddenly Kakashi yanked Naruko aside. She, who did not expect a trick and calmly kept pace with him, stumbled and flew straight into the ninja's back. "I'm sorry." Kakashi whispered awkwardly. "Nothing, Databeo." "What a fly bite you." Naruko didn't have time to finish. The man pulled her off the sidewalk down to the forest path. Naruko chuckled understandingly. They often went where Kakashi was in such a hurry. Forest clearing with a view of the village. A huge space was strewn with flowers, and there was a beautiful view of the Hokage Rock and the houses that were becoming very small. Quickly entering the clearing along a long familiar route, Naruko gasped in delight. The honey-red sky gave reflections to the flowers, so the whole clearing gave off a reddish light. But that wasn't what surprised Naruko so much. Not far from the edge, a red plaid in a white cage was spread out. Fruits, sweets and cookies were placed on it. "So you were preparing, Databeo?" Naruko said admiringly, slowly approaching the picnic area and enjoying the view. The copyist nodded. Like a magician, the man took out a lush bouquet of daisies from the air. Naruko smiled, accepted it and thanked Jonin. She liked the whole situation very much. Naruko and Kakashi ate and talked. More precisely, Naruko was talking. Shinobi took off his mask and listened to the girl. And if this didn't bother Naruko before, now she was mentally asking Kami about what had happened. Jonin was extremely silent before, but now he seems to be nervous. The copying ninja was almost always absolutely calm, which is not to say about his current state. Something happened? What could have happened to the stone wall called Kakashi, since he is nervous and does not say anything about this topic, despite the fact that there was absolute trust in their relationship? Naruko did not know what was the cause of the experiences of the copyist, but because of him she began to worry herself. Kurama, Databeo, what happened to him? Why does he look like something serious is about to happen now and as if completely decisive? Namikaze panicked at all subconsciousness. You're a fool, Naruko, and this, unfortunately, is a diagnosis. Neighed like a pony Kyubi, who has been watching such a picture for a quarter of an hour. Kurama, I'm sure something happened to him. And he just decided not to tell me so as not to make me nervous. That's what he meant then, in the kitchen. Continued to hysteria Naru. I don't understand why you're freaking out. Your faithful one is in front of you, alive, healthy, fed, dressed, shod, and you're panicking. What don't you like? The genuinely perplexed fox asked. Well, look at him, Kurama. He's so worried. Why would he be so nervous, Dattebayo? Naruko asked him, having completely screwed herself up. Kurama was ready to hide his muzzle in his big red paws and start banging his head against the bars. Hatake Kakashi, whom he had until now considered the best match for his dearest Jinchuriki, turned out to be a phenomenal coward. Naruko was worried about him more than for herself, and he, damn his shikaku, was frankly drifting and did not dare to finally do what he had started this whole circus for. And Naruko spent all her nerves on empty chatter and tedious human experiences, for a place to kick the copyist in the ribs and finally shake out of him embarrassment and fear. Well, really, like a little child. While Naruko was openly shaking and was already trying to ask the copyist, if necessary, with the help of a frying pan over an ashen head, Kakashi had already managed to calm down and even relax a little, looking at the sun going over the horizon. He did not seem to look at the girl, fearing that looking into aquamarine eyes, his newly born determination in his soul would dissolve and he would turn into a bundle of nerves again. Several times he had already jerked towards Naru, trying to get down on one knee, but stopped himself at the very last moment. Naruko, on the other hand, perceived his twitching as the first bells to a nervous tick and was even more worried. The date went to the smarty, Kurama, as the most advanced in this panicky trio, decided to act. Naru, urgently, hug him. The fox roared, distracting the girl for a short moment. Why, Dattebayo? Namikaze was confused. Well, you know how hugs of a loved one usually help. He'll calm down, maybe he'll tell you what's eating him so much. The fox drawled with cunning, watching Naru's ears turn red at the word beloved. Oh, okay. Naruko breathed out and reached for Hatake's shoulders in order to just hug her. Kakashi didn't expect hugs, but he was more than ready for them. Covering the girl with a second blanket, he hugged her and began to rock her slightly, enjoying the moment. At some point, determination spilled over the edges of the panic bowl, and Kakashi jumped up. Naruko jerked to see what was going on, and saw Kakashi standing in front of her on one knee. And not just standing. In his hands was a box with an engagement ring. The mon of the Hatake clan was engraved on gold from the outside and inside. Naruko froze, looking straight into the black eyes opposite. Naruko. Today I want to celebrate how beautiful you are. You are a real goddess, descended from the pages of fairy tale books. I'm not the best match for you, but you chose me, and that made me the happiest. I want to ask you today, how would you like to link our lives and continue to go together, but as spouses, as a family? Don't you want to marry me? And then he wanted to give himself a slap on the head. After all, I thought about how to say it beautifully, but damn, I forgot. Therefore, he said what had been going on in his soul for the last few days. Naruko has tears in her eyes. Tears of happiness. Her lover, Kakashi, tells her that he wants to build a family with her. He says he wants to see her as his wife. Unable to say anything, already not Namikaze nodded. And immediately found herself in the arms of a copyist. The warm metal touched her ring finger. Congratulations, Naru, now you are a bride. Boomed Kurama, who had been gurgling at the whole subconscious before. Thank you, Ku. Naru replied, unable to say more. The sun is almost hidden. Wedding ring sparkled in the last rays. A couple in love, watching the darkening sky colors, quietly experienced the best moments of their lives with each other. That's the end of it.